Is the audio balanced? Okay. Does that cure the echo? All right, I think it does. Yikes. My inner monitors are, this keeps popping off. All right. You turn that down a little bit. Okay, Rod, good morning. Happy Saturday, my friend. Let me get caught up here just a second. Let me turn this these chats on. All right. So I posted a question last night. Not last night, maybe, no. A day and a half ago. And it's kind of popping off. I simply asked the question, what makes fatherhood, what's hard about fatherhood? What's most difficult about fatherhood? What's hardest about fatherhood? And hold on just a second. Let me check something on this. I'm doing a test to play this in the background. This is an AI song we created. Okay, it's working. Just want to make sure it's going. Did I get the new Black Ops 7? No, not going to play it. No interest whatsoever. I think it's just a continuation of remakes yeah. So it's been hold on just a second. I want to try something. Make sure my technical stuff is working. All right. So there are hundreds and hundreds of comments on that post I made asking what's the hardest part about fatherhood. And I'm going to take this out because this is, it's super loud in the background. Let me try something here really quick. Bear with me here for a second. I'm going to get this set up the way that I want. And then we'll get into questions. What's this song called? Actually an AI song that we made as part of an album that we're messing around with. It's called Father Strong. I'll make it available. We'll get it available on YouTube and other channels here. But it's something. So one of my sons is a musician. Two of my sons are musicians, and he's now working on producing some music that we feel like represents fatherhood. And so he's been spending a bunch of hours. We use an app called Suno. So it's AI generated the way that we want to generate music for fatherhood, things we're doing. So, all right, I want to get into, so this video that I put out, it's actually just a post. It was just saying, what's the hardest part of fatherhood? And I think, right now, I mean, it's 18,000 views, but more importantly, it's over 400 comments. And I probably spent between last night and this morning, probably 5 hours replying to all the comments that I could before I went live. And I know I'll have a bunch more to respond to. So thank you for commenting. I want to talk about some of the common threads that I've seen through this as I'm responding to comments. And man, there's a lot to talk about. And it's the whole reason, I know the struggle that fathers are going through right now. I'll tell you, just by way of background, so that people know when they come in. My wife and I have been married 37 years. We raised 6 kids together. They're all out of the home now. We lost our oldest son to his struggle with mental health 4 years ago on December 7th. And I didn't grow up with a father in the home. I reestablished a relationship with my dad before our kids were born so that he wouldn't miss that. So, and then now I'm a grandfather of, we'll have our 6th grandchild here soon. And so I think I have a perspective and some insight in terms of what's happening with fatherhood. And it just gets reconfirmed every time that I see comments and things that you post. So to give you an idea, I made some notes here because, Here are the things that I'm commonly seeing in the comments, and I hear this all the time from fathers all over the world. It's no different just here in the US. I work too much. I provide everything financially, but I'm missing everything emotionally. I feel like a ghost in my own house. That's probably the number one thing, right? I mean, the number one thought. And if you have questions, Barbie, good morning. If you have questions or you have comments about what makes fatherhood hard, I would love to hear them. That's what we're going to do on the stream. Let me get so that I can see this and not miss comments. I wish I could read. I should just go through and just read as many as I can. So here's the common thread. Couple of very common things. Number one, wanting to provide the best that we can as fathers, but knowing that being the provider means we're not there as much as we would want to be there. And that kind of stems into what is it that, are we doing enough? Are we doing enough? And I'm going to relax a little bit here if that's all right. Find this. Are we doing enough, and will it matter? And so as I've spent these 5 hours plus responding to all of the comments so far, and I'll get to all of them. I'll respond to all of them. I can sense a lot of concern, a lot of pain, a lot of kind of suffering and silence. And I think we should change that. I hope in some of the messages I return that we can give a sense of legacy and hope. So let me talk about a couple of things. One thing I don't have any experience with, and I'm seeing this a lot in the comments, and I hear this a lot in general, is the fathers who are co-parenting and they're put in a situation where the children are used as leverage against them to hurt them, to not give them the opportunity to be involved in the way they really want to be involved, even if mom and dad don't love each other anymore and realize they have to be apart. I've seen people very close to me that have gone through that, and it becomes this situation where, why are we sacrificing the children? And for a father, I can only speak for a father. I've not had the experience that. My wife and I have been married 37 years, but I have seen the struggle and the incredible challenge it is for the kids and for the fathers on the side not wanting the kids to go through that. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely, terrible. Okay, so let me make sure I don't miss comments that are coming through. What's the hardest part of Tactical HVAC says watching them grow is the best and the hardest part. That's another thing that I heard a lot. I see a lot is that I know that they're growing, but I know they're also going to grow out on their own. So here's the thing I've found in our 6 kids. All of our kids are on their own now. When I say that, that's an understanding that we lost our oldest son 4 years ago. But the thing that I realized, I read somewhere that someone said that we're creating the memories for our kids so that when we're long gone, that's what they'll carry them through their own challenges. So it is tough. As we were raising our kids, as fathers that we're raising them to not be with us to be on their own. But I'll tell you this as well, is that when that happens, it brings a whole other set of amazing blessings and opportunities. They don't stop needing you. I hear that in the comments a lot as well, that there's this fear that they stop needing us. They don't need us in the same way, but they still need us. And it will be in a very different way, in a way that you're going to get, not that we seek recognition, but maybe appreciation and validation that all the sacrifices we made in raising our kids were worth it and they really panned out. And when the kids are grown and gone, you're going to get that. If you did it right, if you worked hard, not that you were perfect. That's another thing that I hear in the comments is that, I did I do everything I could have? Did I make mistakes? How will that impact them? Of course we make mistakes. Of course, all of us as dads make mistakes. And perfection is a pursuit that we'll never catch. We'll absolutely never catch that. But it feels like we're supposed to. And so, again, a lot of the comments that I hear are based around, did I do enough? will they be strong enough? I want to protect them from their own suffering that I've gone through, but all the things that we've gone through are what made us are what made us strong. And so I don't think it's about protecting them in my own experience from everything that they're going to face. It's about strengthening them to get through it correctly. So it's been really crazy, the amount of comments. And again, I'm trying to get to them and respond to them all. But I'd love to have the discussion here. If you want to talk, questions that I can respond to right now, let's respond to them. Because I don't want to just sit here and monologue. I want to actually address different things. But I can tell you, if I went back through all the comments, let me just read some of these comments. We'll read some of these comments. I won't mention the name of the person, but I will, I'll read you the comment. We'll talk about it. And they just keep pouring in. So I know there's a bunch I haven't responded to yet. So here's one. I'll just use a first name. Matthew says, can never buy them what they want and deserve because I'm swamped with bills and a credit score that never goes up and everyone requires credit. Even if I can't afford a monthly payment, it makes me feel like a failure because he never asks for anything and he asked me for. So this kind of concern is life is expensive. We feel like we can't keep up. We can't provide all the practical physical things, which is why I'm doing this event on December 1st to talk about that as an alternative or something that really builds legacy. But especially as we come up on, all the inbox messages we get for Black Friday and Cyber Monday and all of that. Let me move up here and get, what if I can get some real-time comments as they're popping up? There's hundreds of comments. Hold on. I've got two songs going on here. Sorry. How is this possible? Hold on. I've got multiple songs going on here. Dang it. I need to stop this too because where's it coming from? Shoot. Where's it coming from? I don't want this. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to stop this or I'm going to get a violation here. I don't know where this music is coming from. I'm looking. Hold on just a second. This makes zero sense. I don't see anywhere this music is coming from. Oh my goodness. I'm going to get a violation here if I can't stop this. Oh, you know what? It's this. Okay. I was trying to read the comments live. It's the, let me do it another way. Let me do it another way. So that I can read you comments here. I mean, there's 60 more comments I haven't had a chance to respond to. I've spent about 5 hours responding to everything, but let me go through a few of these. What's the best way to do this? I wonder if I can bring this up and mute it. Hold on. I think if I bring this up, there we go, and pause it. Okay, so we'll just read through some comments here that people are making about this. U.S. Marine, how are you, my brother? Great to have you here. Nutler, good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, so I'm just going to read through comments. This one from Jeremy says, trying to protect them from the monsters while trying to teach them to protect themselves one day because you won't always be there to protect them. That's one of the things that, again, this is common. And I answer this by saying, But the memories that we leave behind as a legacy when we're gone will be what carries them through all of that. And that's hard sometimes in the hunt to really understand that. Another comment from Clayton, wondering if I'm good enough that my daughter is proud that I am her father. These are all the legitimate concerns we have, right, as fathers. And myself and raising 6 kids with their mother, with my wife, you wonder all of those things. I can tell you that now that they're on their own and they view life differently and see it's you're doing the right thing. So this is answering the question, these hundreds of comments, 479 comments so far on this, what's the hardest thing about fatherhood? And I'm just reading them live. Knowing that one day I won't be there for them. Watching them grow older, realizing they don't need you like they did when they were a child. You know, there's power in that. That's absolutely true. They won't need us as they needed us as children, but they will need us differently. And there's something even it's more rewarding now when they're on their own and they think about, they reflect on everything that we did for them and they understand it as an adult. That's when the reward comes. In the hunt, in the middle of it, when they're too young to comprehend the sacrifices that fathers make, it's the hardest time. But keep working through that. When they are older, as adults, they'll recognize it, and all of those rewards start pouring in. Another one, Callie says, setting them on the right path and praying they continue to walk it. Letting my kids experience life as independent people, knowing that I can't always be their safety net. Again, it's the unknown that we hope for and work for, but don't know until later in life. The Carolina Daddy says, making an effort to be the best for them keeps me away. I hope they understand one day they are all I want, and I want the world for them. And they will. They will. Again, many of the things for us as fathers are going to come back as our children are adults. We're going to see not as many of them right now. We're all in the hunt of it. Providing, protecting, leading, wondering, fearing our own inadequacies. Are we actually going to be good enough? Siler, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Pigeon says, having to step back and let them make their own mistakes, knowing the outcome. That is so absolutely true. It is watching our children go down a path towards things that are mistakes and they're going to have to experience the consequences of them is one of the toughest things, especially the role we fill as provider and or the role we fill as protector. And that protector mode wants to kick in and say, hey, no. But we can't prevent them from experiencing all the things that will make them strong in the same way that they made us strong, right? And that's hard. That's hard. That is really tough. Jason says, healing your demons so your son has none. Another thing that I hear in these comments consistently is that struggle of us becoming everything that we know it all, that we understand. And we do know more than our kids know because they haven't gone through what we're going through. But I think it's important for us to come back and remember that we're learning as well, right? We've never been fathers before, and every year that goes by, every day that goes by can be a new experience, and we're learning and working through our own challenges and struggles. And so on top of us doing that, we're also working towards having to not let them see that in us so that they can have the confidence and surety. What's up, Captain? How are you? I think it's kind of hard to read comments here. Let me see if I can change something here really quick. Bear with me just a second. I want to find an image that has a little darker. Let me do this. I want to make the chat a little easier to read. I'm doing this in real time, so I apologize. So sorry, I'm doing this in real time. All right, I think that'll be a little better. Can read things a little bit better. Move the text big. Talk viewer can't read the text. Okay. Is that a little better? Hopefully that's a little better. Okay, let's get back to reading these comments you guys are putting in here. So asking the question, what's the hardest thing about being a father, right? So Basement Bourbon Bar says, my firstborn's about to leave. I pray I've taught him everything I could so he can guide his family through a world I have endured. That's the thing you don't know. I can tell you this though, for the fathers, as a father that raised 6 kids, I can tell you that if you know you're doing your best, not perfect, not right all the time, making plenty of mistakes, that's the difference, because they're going to go through the same thing as our sons become fathers, grandfathers, mentors, all of that on their own. Having seen you make mistakes along the way is going to empower them to be okay with the mistakes that they're going to make themselves and not have that turn into a burden for them. Eric says, wondering if I could have done something better. I hear that all the time. Elevator Man Bob says, losing my beautiful daughter Shelby at 23. She was tragically in an accident, and trying to understand how I'm supposed to go on without her is unbearable at times. Life is definitely not fair, and we aren't promised anything. I know that pain of losing a child. We lost our oldest son to his struggle with mental health 4 years ago. This December 7th will be 4 years. And I can tell you that it's a pain that only a father can understand that has experienced that. Obviously, the mother experiences it in a completely different way, but I can speak to what it is as a father. And if it hasn't happened, because it's not the way it's supposed to, if it hasn't happened, like there are lots of things I don't understand, and I tell people that in the comments and chat, to say that I don't understand what it is to have to parent alone. My wife and I have been married 37 years, and we raised our kids together. So I can't say that I understand what that struggle and pain is. I can imagine it, and I can feel the heartbreak. But in losing a child, which is not the natural order of things, I do know that pain, and I do what that feels like. And for me, it turned my life into a course of doing more things like the nonprofit foundation we started, and this with Fatherhood Reclaimed, because it matters to so many fathers that do question, don't have the examples, don't have mentors, don't have other brothers, a brotherhood they can kind of rely on to get through it. And our kids need that, and that's what we're working through. Okay, let me keep reading comments here. Ozzy says, wondering if I actually did enough. Yep. And for those of you that are here or you have commented, I will get to I've spent about 5 hours responding to hundreds of comments already. I will respond to every comment. But in going live, I wanted to make sure we could talk about some of this. Mr. Fixit says, having to co-parent with a mother that alienates you. Yep. Probably 20% of the comments have to do with that situation. And that's so, again, oh crap. Okay, next comment. Sean says, so again, asking the question, what's the hardest thing about being a father? Sean says, letting go. But letting go brings the greatest rewards too. Daddy Bear says, feeling like no matter what you do, you're not good enough to make them what they deserve to be. I hope that more people understand. I hope that fathers, and this will come with time, but I guess as a father who has raised our kids, and our kids are on their own now, you will see that you did. If you're doing your best, you absolutely will see that you did. I promise. Pineapple says, carrying the invisible weight without showing it. Yeah. One of the things that with fatherhood, right, our responsibilities to provide, to protect, to lead goes unspoken. And it's kind of the way that it's supposed to be, because that's a responsibility that we're geared for. I believe we're built to do that, but it doesn't mean we have to do it alone. And that's a lot of the work behind we're doing with Fatherhood Reclaimed and whatnot. But it's a real struggle. Staying for the kids, I kind of got the sense of that. Sim racing dad, I kind of got the feeling from that maybe there's, not the best relationship between mom and dad, but you stay together for the kids, which is honorable, but it's also, that's tough too, because kids sense things, that. Free Carl says, feeling like you're not enough for them. You'll start to see the trends in these comments, right? You'll start to, oh my goodness, I keep hitting the wrong thing. Sorry. Press says, failing ain't an option. Little girl, we don't compromise, we lead. Hot Rod says, the hardest thing is also the greatest achievement. Watching them grow and turn into the adults they were capable of being. Yep. Rob says, nothing, do what's best and love unconditionally. That's powerful truth. I mean, it's, what's the hardest thing? There's nothing that's hard in the sense if you say to yourself, it's my responsibility, I love unconditionally, and we do this is my role. But on the other hand, there are things that make it very tough. Bubba says, watching them grow and not wanting them to grow. I think not wanting them to grow apart from us, I think is the point, right? We want them to grow, we want them to move forward, but we don't want them to grow away from us. Juan Carlos says, not being able to help and having to watch them suffer from the sidelines, not because you want to, but because you have to. That is so true, because I think one of the most difficult things as a father I ever experienced was knowing that they're going to have times where they're suffering, where it's going to be difficult, where they're going to face challenges, just because life throws it at them, because they sometimes make the wrong choices and mistakes, and having to stand on the sidelines to be there to support them, uplift them, and help them through it, but not to protect them from it. And that is incredibly difficult, because our natural instinct is to want to protect. Andrew says, speaking for myself, I'm all my son has on my side. I have no parents or brothers or sisters. So if I leave, he's going to carry the same path I carried every day of my life. And thankfully, his mom has family, but I still hope he becomes strong like I have had to. He says, thank you, God. So there are those circumstances. I didn't grow up with a father in the home. And so I recognized before we had kids that I needed to reestablish a relationship with my dad. And I did, because I wanted my kids to have that, him as a grandfather in their lives. And so, I had to set aside all the feelings that I may have harbored growing up without him, to know that in my adulthood, in my early 20s, I could recognize that, hey, he made choices. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. But that my kids shouldn't have to experience not having that grandfather in their life. Aaron says, having to set an example when there's times you want to just let go and not want to. Yeah. There isn't, I hope everyone understands how important for me the role of mother is. I've stood side by side with their mother, with my wife, for 37 years, but I can only speak to a father. I took on cancer, watching my battle with cancer. Oh, watching your child. That is, wow, my heart just aches for you in that. I can tell you that we lost our oldest son 4 years ago. He was 29. And to his battle with mental health. And that last year of his life, what made it almost unbearable was knowing that I would have done anything to fix it and could do nothing to fix it. And a child with cancer, I imagine, I can't speak to this firsthand, but I can imagine, looking back on that last year of our son's life, that's what makes it almost unbearable, that you as a father would do anything to help, to solve it, to fix it, and can't. And that's heartache. That's heartache. We're not supposed to lose our kids before we go. We're supposed to be the ones that go first. And when it happens, it's just a heartache that's almost unbearable. Steve says, that's wild. So hard. So sorry to hear that. Thank you. And I'm sure you're talking as well to, I took on cancer. It's one thing. There's two things that happen for me. One thing in society, and it's diminishing of the role of fatherhood, makes it extra hard on us, right? Makes it extra difficult because for those of us trying to do the best we can, having that extra burden of fatherhood feeling like it's been minimized is just unnecessary. Because not only do we have the roles that we have, a provider, protector, leader, bringing stability to our families in our homes, we have to oftentimes do that alone. That doesn't have to be. We should have a brotherhood. We should have a way to be able to not sing kumbaya and hug and hold hands, but to have someone that can stand beside and say, yep, I've been there, or I'm going through that and you can get through this, or I'm going through it, and someone else telling you that they have, and you know there's light at the end of the tunnel. All of these things, because what life throws at us is completely almost overwhelming in and of itself. Hold on. My mustache is curling up, itching my nose. Thank you for the channel. 100%. 100%. Stevie says, were you military? Very military vibe. I was not. That's the one thing I wish I had done, and I didn't. I chose another path, but I know where it feels like that. Mine is being deeply depressed, but trying not to show it to my son. Chris says, that is. So I've not been a person. This is what was. Let me give you a little bit of background here. When we lost our oldest son, it came on very quickly. And in about the last year and a half of his life or so, and we're a very close family. He has 5 brothers and sisters. His parents have been married for 37 years. It really caught us completely off guard. And I'm not someone that personally has ever had the struggle of, mental health issues or depression and those kinds of things. Obviously, I have my times where I'm down or my times where there are struggles, but not to any of that kind of degree that I couldn't work through it. And so having a son, our oldest son, I mean, he was a 6'3" tennis pro, incredibly good looking. Everything on the outside just made it look like he was just fine. And watching him go through that, the struggle became for me not being able to do something to fix it. And we had conversations, many, sleepless nights, where one of the things that he told us, which is the 4 pillars of the nonprofit foundation we start, one of them is he would tell me, and not in a way that was very heartfelt, he'd say, don't tell me you understand. And I said, you're right, I don't. And because I couldn't connect with him on a level of understanding what was happening in his mind. And that's when it becomes so important when we isolate as fathers in any struggle and challenge that we have, and we think that there is no one that can understand and no one we can connect with, the burden gets almost unbearable and unbearable many times for a lot of men. Why can't we change that? Why can't we have a brotherhood? Why can't we have a connection that says, hey, I am there. I've experienced the same thing. One of the big struggles for our son was to say, can we get him to someone that is going through the same thing, has gone through it, so that he can connect and understand at a real level that someone does understand. And it's no different for fatherhood. Make sure I keep up with comments here. And so, Chris, I wish I could connect with that, but I can tell you there are millions of other men that feel exactly the same way, and that you're not alone in that. Okay. Joe says, trying to explain to my kids that just because I don't love their mom anymore doesn't mean I won't ever stop loving them. Mom and I are divorced. I'm hearing this more and more and more and more. And this is, I'm so inspired by couples that do split, that don't leverage the kids to hurt one another, and that, take on the responsibility of explaining to those kids that you are loved and you are everything to mom and I. Mom and I just can't be together anymore. because there's way too much of the opposite. Jay says one of the toughest things about being a father is when you realize you are raising the ones you can't live without to live without you. We talk about that. That's legacy, right? It's what we're all working towards. It's what we all hope is absolutely successful. And guys, thank you over on TikTok for the likes and the follows and the gifts and all of that. Thank you so much. Andrew says, or no, sorry, I read that one. User not found says, hoping I was a good father. You'll see it when the kids are older. You'll know. You'll get it back. Lee says, knowing after a breakup, another man will get to spend more time with your child than you do. That's heartbreaking. That's really tough. Again, not one that I understand, but I know many of you do. Bastista says, wanting and wishing the best for them, but letting them decide to do it on their own, like God does for us. I mean, 100%. It is, for me, that's probably one of the most difficult things that I faced as a father with our kids when our kids were growing up, is knowing, and even now as adults, I see them make choices and decisions that I know will not bring them what they're hoping for or the happiness that they want, and having to let them do it, having to be here for them when they fall to help them get back up, but having to let them fall is brutally tough. Brutally tough. Long nose Peter, watching my sons get older, knowing I'm getting older, and one day I'm going to leave this world, knowing the day is the day that I break their hearts. I'll tell you, again, this is a common thread we're getting in all these comments, but that's the reality that we're actually working towards, right? That we can leave them with the memories that will carry them through life. And yes, there will be a longing and heartbreak when we leave. But that's not the legacy that we build in them. Will carry them way, way beyond that, right? And guys, if you have any questions, tough love, Quacky says tough love is one of the hardest things. I agree, and I think that toughness is, it's so easy to want to spoil our kids, make life easier than it was for us, and let them thinking that giving them things like freedoms that maybe we didn't have as the answer, and that's more damaging more times than not. And you know that, you understand that. And so tough love and is difficult, but when they are grown and gone, like our kids are, they'll appreciate you for it, because it'll build a resilience and a strength in them that they just don't understand yet. M. Knight says, watch them grow up knowing you'll one day not be there for everything. Yep. Carl says, not being able to protect them from this cruel world. I mean, this is definitely a difficult time to raise kids. And as our grandkids are growing now, we're having more grandkids. I look at that and say, yeah, but as tough as it is, it's an amazing time to be alive. And as long as we help them see both sides of it, they'll be protected. We can't protect them from everything in this world, obviously. Farmer Mike says, staying strong for everyone else, putting on the I'm all right smile while breaking behind those closed doors just to wake up and do it again for them. That's absolutely the challenge, right? Hold on just a second. I thought I had this going here. I'll make sure I'm not missing comments. Quacky says, kids are like cows. Put a cow in a new pasture and they will walk the perimeter for security. Hold to the rules will instill security. I agree, 100%. A lot of times I think as parents, our kids begin to think with us that our rules, our guidelines, our the things we put in place and structure are prison gates, but they're actually security. And that's a great point. That's a great point. Nope, Nico, no gaming today. All right, more comments. We're pushing almost 500 comments on here. And when I get off stream, I'll get back to answering a bunch of these comments. Steve B says, when you teach them to avoid the mistakes you made and their mother, my ex, teaches them the opposite to spite you, at the end, they end up resenting you, but make the same mistakes. Heartbreaking. again, parents that leverage, that separate, divorce, and leverage their kids against each other to hurt each other. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I as a father, I didn't have to experience that. I grew up in a fatherless home. My parents divorced when I was a little baby, so I didn't have kind of that trauma to experience and the difficulty of that split. But I have such regard and such admiration for parents that don't let their inability to stay together affect the kids. As a matter of fact, they put in more love. That's really hard. One Eye says, hardest part, never knowing if they felt and realized the love you have for them because they'll never say and will never ask. That's true when they're young, but I'll tell you what, our kids now as adults, we know it. And they don't always say it, but they show it in their actions. And we remain a very close family. We've always been a close family. And while you wonder that when they're young, it will come back. And it's one of the greatest blessings I never anticipated is having our kids go out and start their lives of their own. It's not even about a sense of pride. It's a sense about comfort and satisfaction that all the concern I had when they were young, if I was doing enough, is showing that in fact it was. Zach says, not having my grandfather here to watch me raise my son, he made me promise him my firstborn, but went to paradise before I could give him that promise. My son's middle name, Dean, was my grandpa's, making sure I give him the same love my grandpa gave me. That's legacy. That's legacy. Isn't that why we're doing this in the end? And that's a big reason why I reestablished a relationship with my dad as an adult so that he wouldn't have to miss and my kids wouldn't have to miss having a grandfather. And it ended up being fantastic. Bassett says, watching them move out, it's bittersweet because you're proud of how you raised them and seeing them become independent, but sad at the same time that they leave. Yeah, it is. It's bittersweet. It's the pride and a little bit of sadness, but it pays such dividends as time goes on. Patriot says, working to support our family and missing many events, sports, etc. Yeah, the role of provider. That's why it's so important. Presence is so important, right? We talk about that as kind of a cliche and a buzzword. Presence matters and makes such an impact because every minute that we're there, undistracted and present, makes up for every hour that we're gone, knowing that we have to provide, and they will see that. Kevin's mentality says, it's not having my father here the past 21 years to help guide me and to have to figure it out by myself. I get it. I didn't have a father in the home. I had to figure out by myself. My dad now has been gone for almost 20 years, and so I know my kids are missing that aspect of a grandfather. Ismail says, dealing with teenage girls is the absolute hardest stage other than, get the rest of this. It is. We have two girls and 4 boys. I get it. Quacky says, best thing I can say about my dad is he taught me how not to raise children. Valuable lessons. Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. There are lots of examples of how not to do things. I wonder sometimes how I grew up in a fatherless home and ended up being married for 37 years and having 6 kids and now 6 grandkids. Charles says, being a single dad and not feeling like I'm enough for him. He gets everything, but I want and need more time with him. He's everything. Single parenting, single parenthood homes. Mikey says, having the pleasure of being dad taken away from you by their mother. I hear this over and over and over. Watching them go out on their own and not seeing them every day. I'll tell you, that makes me thankful for technology. We talk with our kids every week. We talk with our grandkids. We FaceTime with our grandkids. And without technology, it would be so tough. I can't imagine, 50 years ago, how much more difficult. When I see our grandkids and our daughter and son-in-law and grandkids live out of state, and I can't imagine, and every time we hop on FaceTime or when we do go to visit them, they know exactly who they are. They run into our arms, even though we may not have seen them in person for 6 months. And so I'm grateful for that. Local Heavy Hauler says, trying to be there for them when silently our world is crashing down. I see that. The world seems like it's in such chaos, but I would tell you this, it is one of the most amazing times to be alive as well. Nerf Herder says, trying to give them everything you wanted as a child and watching them want more. That's the balance, right? That's the hard thing with fatherhood, is to want to give them everything, but knowing that you shouldn't, even if you can. And I think that in our efforts to do that, that creates in them, right, that if we don't put some guidelines on that, it's easy for them to kind of, I just want more, I want more. I get it. I get it. Enzo says, making sure they will always be okay. I wish I could make sure they always be okay. In going through that process of losing our oldest son 4 years ago, I'd have done anything to make it okay. Robert says, always feeling like I'm not doing enough. You see the patterns in all of these? Always feel like I'm not doing enough, not working hard enough, hoping I love them enough, trying to be everything to them, or trying to be everything to everyone, and I'm just not on the list. Yep, I agree. Jaybird says, watching them grow up for 18 years and then they go out on their own, but that's what we're working towards. That legacy is what we're building. Watching him grow up and miss his mother. I'm assuming that may be someone who's lost a spouse. Blaine says, having the child's mother hate you more than they love the child. We talked about that. I don't get that. That's just kind of unbelievable. Unholy Tripedal says, raising them to be strong enough to live without me, knowing that I'll never be able to live without them. You will. You will. You absolutely will be able to live without. I mean, you're building legacy in them, and that's the beauty of it. So you will. St. Nick says, having no kids you raised on your own and trying to be a stepfather to teenagers and young adults that never had a father. That's tough on a whole nother level. One of the things I want to do in reading these comments is to help, I hope fathers understand that you're not alone, that the power of what we're able to do can just be enhanced as you understand that you're not the only one going through or feeling these things. Say it again. I think it's what that is. Watching them become adults. Bill Bauer says, not being to see her because her new life can't be interrupted. That will change. That will change. Speedy Man says, losing them. Right? Razor says, keep moving forward when things are tough. Yep. David says, always wondering if I did enough. Yep. White Line, only seeing my kids 5 days a month. I'm lonely and depressed the rest of the month. He sent a picture of his beautiful kids. Yeah, I know how I responded. Those are things, again, that I personally haven't had to, Chris, good morning. How are you, my friend? That I've had to experience. SWAT Heating and Air says, watching them make a mistake after you've already warned them, wishing they would have listened before they had to endure the pain and wondering if you failed or if you gave the right guidance. We always want the best, better than what we had. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? We can't, how are you going to stop that? How are you going to prevent that? And you shouldn't, because the challenges they go through, as much as we want to protect them, some things you're going to have to experience, so they'll be as strong as we are. We just have to be there. God, the comments are just flooding in from you guys. And if you pop into stream, please, say hi, drop a follow. Let us know what for you is the hardest thing. I know a bunch of you are looking through the window out there. Pop on in and say something. Kyle Cook said, try not to make the same mistakes your father, stepfather made raising you, working every day to mold them into better men than you are. That's our goal. That's, 100%. Bowman says, patience. Yeah. Sean says, having to say goodbye when he was so young at 4 years old and still not sure how to live without him. I did a longer message, a response back to him. Again, I'm a father who's lost a child. I understand that pain. But losing a child that was an adult, in my case, at 29, is even different than losing a child at 4. I have, 29 years, 28 years. The last year of his life was very, very difficult for all of us. but I have, almost 3 decades of incredible memories, and that father losing a child that young doesn't get to experience all those extra years. That's extra hard. Spear Christ says everything. Watch them go through the bad times and the good times. Yep. Those that are, if you're just tuning in, these are comments I'm just reading that you guys have made on this post of what's the hardest thing about being a father. Garshel says, when you lose the opportunity through divorce. Yep. This is the common thread we hear all the time. Getting tired. Oh, hold on. Portuguese Blood says not being able to provide more. Provide more or be more for them. I think there's a difference there. I know that we'd like our kids to have all the luxuries or all the comforts that maybe we didn't have, but man, that's not what they're going to remember. That stuff fades away, right? Getting tired says, knowing that one day I won't be here when he needs me the most, but your legacy and the memories of you will be here. They will remain, and that will get them through. James says, being pushed out of their lives after divorce. Yep, again, you see this common thread. There's a lot of that. Cray Cray says, being able to be there for their problems, no matter how big or small, when inside, you're dying inside because you think you're not doing enough for them. That's the struggle. I think it's one of the things I maybe underestimated. Excuse me. One of the things I probably underestimated as a young father was how much I had to learn, or that I didn't recognize that I was learning as it went on as well. I didn't grow up with a father in the home. I didn't have any examples. And so that brings a certain sense of lack of self-confidence or self-doubt in the things you're doing. But then knowing that you're putting in your best is the same way that they're going to go through when they're becoming fathers on their own. Maddie says the feeling of constant stress about everything. Yeah. I mean, we all have it. Our role to be provider, protector, leader, to bring strength and stability to our family. My wife, the mother of our children of 37 years, brings a whole balanced element to that, but I can only speak to what it is to be a dad. And what's really unfortunate to me and why I started Fatherhood Reclaimed is because I see so much in culture adding to the pressure of being a father and tearing away the respect, the admiration of what it is to execute the role of father, right? To be a father. And we got to change that. Brian B says, not being the father I wanted to be. They moved out 1.5 hours away. It's so hard to see them like I used to. Feels like I've forgotten a little more each day. You're not, Brian. I know it feels that way. Our kids get busy in their lives. I think about this still, and we're a super close family. I think, hey, I haven't talked to my daughter, our youngest daughter, in a week. We talked to our oldest daughter, who's married and has the 6th baby on the way, because she views life like she talks to mom a lot. We're, like I said, we're all very close. We talk to her more. Our younger kids that are kind of on their own, like our youngest daughter is 22 and she's been out on her own for a couple of years now. They're busy. They're busy in the excitement of being on their own, right? I get it. Vincent says, when they go from daddy's home to, dad's home, I didn't know. I'll tell you one thing that I got such respect for my wife and the way that one thing she never told our kids was, you just wait till dad gets home. She never did that. She didn't want our kids, no matter how much trouble they were going to be in for something they did while I was gone, she didn't want them to fear my coming home ever. And I had such love and respect for her for doing that. So that the first thing in coming home, and I could tell when something had happened. I can tell when I'd come home and I didn't get the normal, hey, dad, it'd be like, okay, dad's home and I know we're going to have to, but she never instilled that. Guys, thank you for the follows, for the likes, the gifts, all of that. You guys are amazing. Please, 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 if you are just looking through the window, pop on in, click on that screen, pop on in, share a comment, share a thought about what the hardest thing about being a father is. We'd love to hear it. Gavin says, not going to lie, having to be the parent that has to put fear in their hearts, not as a bad thing, but for them to know what they have done, no matter how small or great the issue is, seeing them fear and idolize you at the same time. That's the respect that we build, right? I'll tell you this will be controversial, but it's true. It's my experience in raising 6 kids. I'm not there to be their buddy, right? We are friends. they're my children and I'm their father. And that's a love and a bond I would never try to change in any way. But it's a responsibility too, to do the hard things and guiding them. And I think sometimes there are dads that spend so much time trying to be liked, and that's important, but not over being loved and respected. James says, being needed but hated. Oof. Kids in their teenage years, oftentimes, we had relatively easy teenagers for whatever reason. We were lucky. Camp says, the hardest part is also the best part, is watching them grow up. Yep. Dan says, waiting on him to find God. I'm just here for a little while. Our Father in heaven will never leave us. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Not being their shield for every bump in the road, letting them face the world without me, always ready for education, adventure, and love. Yeah. Again, we wish that we could protect them from all the pain that we know we can see is coming their way. But if we could, they would be the weakest of children. DC 79 says, having nowhere to go when you need help and feeling like a failure or feeling ashamed when you're asking for help. You're a man, handle it. And he says, while women have countless support channels for the stages of life, men are told to just suck it up and deal with it. That's true, and that's probably never going to change. And we tend to be, I'm a very private person in my personal life, but I'm also very open about a lot of things, but I'm also incredibly independent. And I hate asking for help. I don't think that we as men, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that we as men, I don't think it's about having to ask for help, having to, I don't need to share my feelings. I need to know that I'm not in this alone. I need to know that I need to stand shoulder to shoulder with other men. That's what I need. And I think a lot of men, I think most of us as men in general are that way. I think women need a much more emotional connection. We're in the same battle together. We're going through the same struggles, and we're going to get through this together. I've done it. You can do it. Others have done it. Just how I feel as a dad. CC 1072 says, knowing that you're teaching someone to live without you, that you can't live without. Yep, common thread, but that's legacy. That's legacy, my man. That's what we're building. Dale says, trying to be a better father than the one you had. Being present while not being around is as much as it used to be. Yep, presence when you can't be around, or presence when you are there because you're providing and not always around. User 4799 says, a moral support a father never gets. There's much of what we do that'll go unspoken or unrecognized 100%. But I'm telling you, as you work through all those years of raising your kids, when they're out on their own, that legacy will come back and you'll see it. You will get the appreciation. Not being needed anymore after they are out of school and get married. Is the music too loud, by the way, guys? Let me know. I can turn this down a bit. I want to make sure it's not too loud. Your kids, when they get out on their own, move out or whatever, they still need you. It's in a different way, and it's in a much more rewarding way than you're going to anticipate. Maddie says, men can be blunt with each other instead of sympathetic, so it makes it feel like we are alone. I think I know what you're saying there, Maddie. I just think that what we need as men is very different. Speaking as a man, speaking as a father and grandfather. When we lost our son, I'll just, pull back the curtains a little bit. 4 years ago, we lost our son to his battle with mental health. And 2 days after, or the next day even, I had a friend show up at my door. We had people in and out of the house, like crazy. We had a lot of friends and family. And it was obviously, you can imagine just a time I don't want to repeat. And I would hope that, no one would have to go through that, but many will. So I didn't answer the door very often because I was usually talking with other people. I happened to answer the door this time. And at the door was a friend of mine I'd known for many years. Hadn't seen him for several years. Our circles we're just walking in different circles. He also had lost his son unexpectedly. And when he showed up at the door, neither of us said a word. Not hello, hey, how you doing? So sorry for your, nothing. We looked at each other, tears immediately began to pour, and we just hugged. And that's what we both needed. I knew at that moment, I didn't need to say a word. I knew he understood. And I loved him for the fact that he would come out of his way just to be there and show that support. And of all the people that you talk with that sincerely say, we're so sorry for your loss, it's different when someone has gone through what you just went through and you make that connection. And that being said, that's what I'm talking about. We don't feel like I ever need to vent about anything. I feel like at times when I'm struggling the most in being a father, now a grandfather, or I face challenges I never faced, I want another man that's been through it to be able to say, even without words, I understand, and to show that you can get through it. And I think we need more of that. I think too many men, by far, more than I expected once we went through that with our son, are hanging on by their fingertips, suffering in silence. And that's what we need to change. It's not about feeling like I have to share my emotions, but just knowing that their strength can be part of my strength. Someone to listen instead of having the answers. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, Maddie, thank you. I kind of thought that's what you were saying. All right, let's continue on. James says, JJ Thorpe says, failure. When you feel like you have failed them, teaching them to be great men, fathers, and husbands to be. Yep. Tio says, learning to love when you never had it as a child. Incredibly difficult. I didn't grow up with a father in the home, so how in the world did becoming a father turn into such a priority? I'm going to change this text here really quick to match the post. What's the hardest thing? Let me see if that, I want to make sure it matches. Comments are just pouring in too. I mean, it's just crazy. I've been answering, I've spent 5 hours so far, probably at least last night and today, answering the comments to this post. I will get to them all. I'll get to them all. Okay. Michael King says, never being around enough and feeling like a failure to them and not giving what they deserve. What they deserve and what they want can be two different things, right? Curtis says, choosing the wrong person to have kids with. Oh, yeah. I'm so fortunate. Having been married 37 years, she was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. She's my best friend, and she's just an absolutely amazing woman. So I don't understand that one, but I can have a heartache for that. Users says, patience, God help me. Yeah, it's a lot of patience. Scott says, not messing up anybody that looks, hold on, I'm thinking, not messing up anybody that looks their way must be learning sometimes. I think I know what he's saying there. Mello says to remind them it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them so we can do better. That's tough. Helping them to know that that we can't save them or protect them from all the choices they make, but that will actually make them stronger, and being there to support them after and lift them afterward. Another user says the worry. Another one says being a father is the hardest thing. It's true. Fire Eagle says, for me, it was burying my firstborn. She was 18 and her brother was 16. We're just starting that phase of becoming closer. I couldn't take the pain away from him or my wife, but I put on the strong face and held it together for them and whoever needed it. It's been 15 years, and I don't think I have grieved fully yet, but I still need to keep the face of strength on. There is an element to that. I can tell you, the day after we lost our son, all of our kids, our whole family, so our other 5 children and my wife and I had a quiet moment, and I sat them down in the living room, and I said, here's one thing that we're never going to say again after this day. What if? What if? What if we're going to carry a strength that says, because we know that for that last year, all of us did everything that we could possibly imagine, and it ended up not being enough. And I never wanted my kids to ever feel, or my wife or myself to feel any sense of, well, what if? That's a hard thing to fight through. That's a hard strength, a hard face to put on. But I know that we honestly all felt that way. George says, teaching your kids to dream, but not to get lost in the dream and forget about reality. Yep. That's one of the things in this live stream event that I'm doing on December 1st. We're going to talk about, it's about, there's a real threat to getting lost in, or, leaving reality because of AI. I'm a big believer in the power of what AI is going to do. And that's part of what I'm going to show coming into this holiday season on this event. But yes, keeping them based in reality in a world that wants to create the perception and access to what isn't real. Richard says, raising them to be on their own, not to need me. Yep. Steve says, the inner conflict. God, the comments are just pouring in, new ones, and I'm going to have to get to all of these. Watching them fall or fail at something, followed by being strong enough to let them learn from it, growing up and learning that not everyone is a winner, needs to come back. God, I absolutely agree. These are comments that I need to reply to. I won't do it right now, but let me read that again. So Levine says, watching them fall or fail at something, followed by being strong enough to let them learn from it. Growing up and learning that not everyone is a winner needs to come back. I agree. I think the biggest thing that I probably learned in my life growing up, not with a dad, was all the things I failed at, all the things throughout my life I failed at, that I put an attempt in, and that's okay. That failure brought strength. I've failed, most people fail more times than they massively succeed. So great insight. Peter says, I've been divorced for 5 years now, and the hardest is when my daughter leaves to her mom's and I'm home by myself. Yeah. Again, not a struggle I've had to face, but absolute truth. Phil says, raising your kids to teach them partnership, loyalty, love, sacrifice, dedication, accountability. Then other parent shows lies, cheating. Yeah. To say, here's one way to live your life positive, then go show the complete opposite destroys me. Never wanted my kids to have to be separated from parents or divided home. Hopefully, I pray they can find and do better than I did for their own sake. Again, that's not a pain I've had to experience, but I recognize that breaks my heart when one parent's trying to live a way that will be the most beneficial for their children, and the other one is doing the opposite. Because kids, it's super confusing. That's tough. That's so tough. Phil, I will answer your message. These are a bunch of messages we're getting into now. I haven't had a chance to answer. I've answered, I think, last night and today, because I will answer every one of your messages. I'll reply to every one of your messages. I spent about 5 or 6 hours in the last 2 days responding. I will respond to all of these. Twin Dad says, knowing that one day they won't have me. Yep, but that's the legacy we leave behind, the memories we leave behind that will help them go through life on their own. Choosing to go to work to provide for his family or stay home and spend time with family, can't provide and never for them and never doing enough. That's the balance. That's why presence matters so much, right? Hollywood Marine says, knowing you aren't always going to be there to see them grow up, but your legacy will and your memories will. And that's the best that we can do. Trying to make them understand that the hard lessons are to prepare them for the harsh world and raising them to live without you. Yeah, it is tough. Look, as dads, we want to actually cocoon and protect our kids, right? We 100% want to do that. Man, these are all comments I haven't had a chance to get to that I'll respond to today. Absolutely, we'll respond to all of them today. And if you're out there, thank you for the likes and the follows and the shares. And if you're out there just looking through the window on TikTok, just touch the screen. Come on and say hello. Share your thought about what the hardest thing about being a father is. Love to hear it. Or leave a comment on this post that's everyone's leaving comments on. Swizzle says, burying your child will never be the same. Yep. You'll never be the same, but you can be stronger. That comes from my own personal experiences I've talked about. Tim says, trying to prove to all of them how much you truly love them. And no matter what you do, you never feel good enough, strong enough, love enough, never enough. we feel that, but when they're on their own and independent, you'll see that in fact they did understand it and that it was enough and it'll all come back. Wishing you didn't have to miss out on time with them so you can provide for them. Yep. Losing a child is by far the hardest. I agree. Having lost a child. Justin says, always trying to be strong, always trying to show her the positive life. Yep. These are comments and answers to the questions of Hart Nutler, Elevated Custom. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gifts, guys. Elevated Custom Homes is wow, I have 99 plus. Holy smokes. I have so many comments to respond back to. This is going to be crazy. Hold on. It's my sister's 50th birthday today. Let me, there's a family thread going around. Let me make sure I wish her a happy birthday. She's out of town for her birthday. So let me just wish her a happy birthday here real quick. Okay. TTG, I'm a new dad and will have my son this Saturday, so I'm just listening to the advice. Congratulations. Oh my goodness. I remember our first, just so clearly. I remember each of the six, but congratulations. Thank you for popping in and keep me updated as time goes on with what that experience is like. I'd love to hear it. And guys, thank you for the gifts. Thank you for Elevated Custom Homes, by the way, is one of our sponsors to Fatherhood Reclaimed. So give them some love if you see them pop through. Have I played Arc Raiders yet? I have not. I have had almost like no time with all the things that are going on. And I have so many comments and things to answer now. I'm going through a lot of these new comments. I would take time to answer them, but I want to give some thought. This will take me another 3 or 4 hours to answer all the new comments. So thank you for those of you that are popping in to that to that post and leaving comments. Okay, so what's the hardest thing about being a father? Let me catch up to where we were. Steven says losing. Okay, I already read that one. Justin says always trying to be strong, always trying to show her the positives in life. That's so important. I mean, I think we get so caught up in all how awful the world is, how difficult it is, but there's so many wonderful things about life and about the world. Alex de la Garza says, watching them grow and knowing one day the rooms they once slept in are going to be empty without them. Yeah, but I'm telling you, as a father who's all of his children are grown and on their own, you are absolutely, it's going to come back and you're going to enjoy life as a parent, as a father in a very different way than you ever anticipated. I'm going to love it. Yeah, I'll play it when I have some time. Absolutely. Zane says the greatest thing about being a father is watching them grow up. The hardest part is also watching them grow up. Yeah, I get it. Twins says trying to teach them that all I want is for them to be better than me. Yep. Aaron says knowing I won't be here for their hardest days. You will, in memory and legacy. Jacob says, honestly, watching them grow, it's a double-edged sword because I absolutely love watching my kids grow up and into the person they're going to be. But the hard part is watching them grow up, knowing that's going to change, right? T-Tone says, the feeling you can't protect them, but only be there for them as they grow into young adults. By far the most important thing, right? RK Meza, trying to teach them to be better than I was. Don't make the mistakes I made, be better than me. But a lot of the thing is they have to make those mistakes to actually be better than us, right? And kind of grow through that. Hold on, let me use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. I think one of the things I hope, as I'm live and we talk about this kind of stuff, it just doesn't sound like, like, oh, daddy cheerleading kind of stuff. I want you, when you listen to these comments, to know that you're not alone, because there's recurring themes in all of these comments. Killjoy says, when they grow up. Miller Time says, keep it all together. Solo Dad says, knowing that you're raising them to one day live without you. See the common thread? Raising the ones you can't live without in preparation for eventually living without you. Yep. Never feeling enough, or that I've done enough. This is a longer one. Some of these are new. Okay. Always showing up and being there. Work extra if they need something. Never let them go without. Help with homework. Stay up late doing projects. Just doing the most I can with a little time at home. Cook stuff they normally don't eat when I'm gone, so it's not just the same thing all the time. Yet when I get home, there's no hugs, no kisses, no cuddles. There's just 7 days of loneliness, and it's back to work for 14 days. Sounds like may work on an oil rig or something. I call home and hear their laughs and playfulness, but when I'm home, it's not the same. So I start to think, is it me, or do I just suck the fun and life out of home when I'm there? That's tough. I mean, those, just listening out the kinds of things that you do, it's probably one of the hardest things about fatherhood is the feeling of being under-recognized. Because let's be honest, us as fathers, most of what we want is just some recognition, right? Just some appreciation. We don't need a lot. And when you don't get much of it, or if you feel like you're not getting any of it, that's just an extra burden, because the only reward, we're not looking for, we do it because of the value, the responsibility we feel. So sometimes just that appreciation, there's two sides to it, right? Two sides that I've experienced in my life with fatherhood. One is I don't need warm and fuzzy, kumbaya hand-holding kinds of share your emotions about fatherhood. What I need is two things. One is the working shoulder to shoulder with other men that are fathers and are striving, so that when I have a struggle and I know they've been through it, I know they relate, or vice versa. And just knowing that, hey, we're in this together because it matters for our legacy, for generations, and for the future. The other side of it is having some appreciation. And when you don't get that, that's what's crushing, right? It's kind of a, hey, thank you for what you, simple, a hug, a thank you for what you do. I'm not looking for, big celebrations and parties. Thomas says, I was raised in a strict home. So to me, knowing when to be mad, supportive, affectionate, etc. Yep. Yeah. And that makes a difference. That makes a massive difference. Big Z says, never feeling like I've done enough. Again, these are just so many common themes. Let me get to some things that I haven't answered or read. Terry says, even though you work, bleed, suffered over everything you do for them, and the world knows you do enough, you never think it's good enough. 100%. Golly, man. I got to tell you, my mustache is driving me crazy right now. Okay. And guys, thank you for the likes, the follows, the gifts, all of that. Wow, there are so many comments coming in. I'm sitting here a little bit stunned about how much I'm going to still have to answer all this. I love it. I love it. There's such a common thread in all of these messages, hundreds and hundreds of messages now. And matter of fact, if I just redo this, let's just see. Let me go back to this post. So there are now 21,000 views of this, but more powerfully is there are 542 comments. That means from the time I got on stream, I have another about 200 comments to respond to. Oh, and I'm gonna reply to everyone. I'm gonna reply to everyone. Let me get down to some new comments. One of the reasons that I decided, so I have a live event, it's a paid event, workshop, if you will. Kind of hate to call it, that's much more than that. And one of the things that I feel so strongly about, especially when we come into the holiday season is such a tough time emotionally, especially for men, fathers and providers, not being able to maybe have the total Christmas you were looking to have, maybe not looking to have, you won't be able to give as many gifts as you want. And I have what I think is an incredible solution, something we've been messing with. Like this song that you're hearing in the background was created in AI. And I have an AI startup, and there's two sides of AI as I speak on it at different places. And I think about fatherhood, is it can be leveraged to do some things in terms of creating legacy and memories with your kids that you never maybe have probably seen. And we're going to go over that, all kind of like creating custom music and different things for your kids, but also being able to prepare them for the reality they're going to grow up with in what AI can offer, both the risks and benefits. And so I felt very strongly because it's for those two reasons. And I'll be talking more about that. You can find the link. You can go to our website as well, or look up Fatherhood Reclaimed, or go to Taking Back Fatherhood. Hold on just a second. Lighten things up a little bit. Let me find some more of these comments. New comments, 200 plus new comments coming in. I wonder, I could probably answer some of these live. Well, I know I could. I have them on screen. Okay, here we go. I'm going to add some comments here in real time. If I don't answer some of these messages right now, it'll just be crazy. Nothing we make, so Jackal says, nothing we make it hard for ourselves and begin bad relationship makes it harder. Some of those, I don't know what to, so Hollywood Marine, knowing you aren't always going to be there to see them grow up. I'm just going to respond to some of these in real time. Oh my goodness, the comments are coming in so fast. So I'd love for you guys, I know a lot of you come through looking in the window, I get it, of TikTok, but I'd love for you to hop in real time. we're going to push well over 600 comments here shortly in this post that I put on that says, what's the hardest thing about being a father? And it's obviously capturing a lot of men's attentions and sharing their feelings. I'd love for, to talk about it in real time, talk about it live. So if you're brave enough to tap on the screen, come on into the live stream and share one of your thoughts. What's the hardest thing about being a father? I'll keep, there's so many new comments. I have so many to respond to. Phil says, watching them grow up. So I'll just tell them, but when they are grown up, the new blessings will just roll in. Alpha says, when they feel like you're the enemy. Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, that's part of us being the responsible father, right? That's when we have to take a stand to make sure that they learn correctly, and it feels like they hate us for it. But I promise you, now having all of our 6 children having grown to adulthood, on their own, that it'll come back in respect and admiration. I promise. Tactical Trash Panda. I have my first child being born the beginning of December and extremely excited. Any advice? Wow. What an amazing, I remember the birth of our first child. We have 6. And, it's not, here's what I would tell you. Be present in every moment that you can, because you won't always be there physically, but be present when you are, and love them unconditionally. That'll be easy when you hold that new baby in your arms, your life changes forever. When you step into the role of fatherhood, and it'll never change. You will forever be a father, regardless of whatever happens after. And you know it. It's easy. You know what I'm saying. I don't have to give advice on that. Be present every moment that you're physically there, and love them unconditionally. Super exciting. Congratulations. Super exciting. I'll tell you, one of the things too on this live stream, this paid live stream I'm doing, this workshop on the 1st, is going to bring a whole new kind of level of building legacy, using AI to be a father and build connection that you've never imagined you'd be able to do, is going to play. I'm super excited about it. And the links, if you want to find out more, the links in my bio. I would encourage you. Noid Malo, I don't know what that means. Teaching them to study hard and work hard so that they can have a life better than yours. As a father, I want my kids to be the better versions of me and have confidence in everything they do. Never doubt themselves. Never trust their own judgment. Someone just became a super fan. Did I just see that? If I missed that, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for that. Thank you for subbing. Thank you for becoming a super fan. If I'm seeing that right. It's teaching them to study hard and work hard so that they can have a life better than yours. As a father, I want my kids to be better versions of me and have confidence in everything they do, never doubt themselves, but trust in their own judgment. I mean, that's exactly what we should all be working for. It's not going to happen in the way that we dreamed that it would, but they will be strong in so many ways, be stronger than us in so many ways. In some ways, we will have been the stronger one, but we'll get them through it. But having that as the objective, right? That's fatherhood. That's what we're talking about. Yes, feeling guilty playing ARK. Listen, I'm a huge gamer. You can look at my whole history, and we're going to be launching as part of Fatherhood Reclaimed, we're going to be launching a esports mentorship program next year, but I get it. Mob says the greatest thing about having children is watching them grow up. And the worst thing about having children is watching them grow up. Yep. Yeah. We've talked about that. These common threads, right? These common threads. Raising the ones who you can't live without to live without me. Yep. Beautiful picture. It looks like a little daughter they have. To remind them it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them so we can do better. God, I wish that, that was more of a sentiment. Look, you're going to make mistakes, but you've got that. It's those mistakes. I have learned more from the mistakes I've made in my life by far than the successes I've had. Successes are easy. That's where it just leaves you. But the failures are what taught me the most. And we know that. MDZ Frank says, when you realize that you worked your whole life to give them what's necessary, but at the end, you didn't give them what they needed the most, your time. Watch them grow is the best. At the same time, it hurts to become distant from you. I mean, if you're going to be a provider, protector, leader, all of those things, you can't be present 100% of the time. I shouldn't say it. You can't. It's very difficult to be present depending on what you do to provide. But that being said, what they definitely need most is our time. But when you can't, this is when I talk about being present. This is why I'm super excited about this workshop, not workshop, about this live stream I'm going to do talking about AI and different ways to be present. Things. This music you're listening to in the background, we created. Forrest, what's up, everyone? Hey, Street, hope everyone here is having a great day filled with happiness, positivity. Thank you, my friend. Much love. Thank you, my friend. Tacos for life. I'm struggling, man. Hang in there, brother. Whoa, this is the thing I talk about. One of the toughest things of fatherhood, right, is when we're struggling, we need men to stand shoulder to shoulder with us to get us through it. Hang in there, brother. Hang in there. It's worth it. It's worth it in the end. I promise. Frank Castle says, not my words, but raising the one thing you can't live without to live without you. We're getting a lot of that comment. Choosing the wrong person to have kids with. Oh, yeah. I'm so grateful that, in 37 years of marriage, I'm so grateful that I found the right one. Doughboy says, watching them about to make a mistake, but knowing they have to make it to learn, and then knowing once they learn from the mistakes that they won't need to rely on you anymore. I'm telling you, man, they will. They will always rely on you. It'll just be different. I can tell you that being a father of adult children that are building their own lives and now being a grandfather, I think a lot more of the satisfaction and gratification, admiration, respect, all of that is so fold. So 30 years of raising kids, it's now, even though they're gone, I feel so much reward for all of that work that I didn't feel in the time of being in the hunt. Tacos for life, brother. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine. Hang in there, brother. You'll get through this. I can't. I wish I could speak to that kind of pain. I can't, but I can tell you the kinds of things that I have experienced. That common phrase, this too shall pass. It will, my friend. Peter says, I've been divorced for 5 years now. So look here, Taco. Peter says, what's the hardest thing about being a father? I've been divorced for 5 years now. The hardest is when my daughter leaves to her mom's and I'm home by myself. You see what I mean? No one's alone in any of this. I hope that we as fathers and brethren, a brotherhood, can recognize that there are many, many others going through what we're going through and that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Justin Lee says, finding a balance between supporting financially and just being present. I want so bad to just be present, but I have to keep a roof over their heads, food in their bellies, and clothes on their backs. The way the world is designed, it keeps us constantly trying to do all of that and leaves little time for us to be there for our children. It's frustrating and it breaks my heart. That's what the reality has always been. I'll tell you, it is tough though when you think back, and it's not that they're, oh, the good old days of being a father. What I would say is that it's more about what is different and how we navigate it today as fathers, right? Think back in the days, 100 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, families all worked together, largely on farms and in communities. And now it's not that anymore. So it's never going to go back to being that. So how do we deal with that today? Because it is easy to be distracted. It is easy to be separated and not have that kind of working together system. And that's a lot of what we're all working through. So as much as many are learning to be fathers, many are going through it right now. For me, it's a father of adult children and grandchildren now. I'm still learning. This first time, at age 62, this is the first time I've ever been a grandfather at age 62. So learning to do that, we're learning new lessons every day as well. But doing it side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and fighting the battle together and knowing that no one's alone in all of this that's what will bring us the greatest ability to get through it successfully and leave the right legacy, in my opinion. Jason says, as a single father who raised my son all on my own without any help, the hardest thing is him moving out and starting his life. I'm here, but not here, if that makes sense. He's now 25, has a beautiful wife and a baby girl. When I visit, I leave crying for some time. I understand. I think there's a lot. Here's one thing I would say. If someone was going to say, guys, what's up, Justin? Thank you for your service, brother. I would say, here's what makes that sentiment hard. When someone says, knowing that, I'm training, I'm building them to leave, but I don't want them to. Here's how I've personally viewed fatherhood. I obviously knew that my children, all 6 of them, would one day be on their own, starting their own lives. And now that those 30 years have passed of raising them and them, being in our home and in our lives every day, I don't miss it because I gave it everything. I gave it everything I had. I made mistakes. I was never perfect. We did plenty of things that were wrong along the way, but we did a lot of right things. And the reason I say I don't miss it is because I gave it everything. And now I'm so immersed in what it is to be a dad of grown children, a grandfather of, now grandchildren, that I'm giving that all my best. I don't want my kids to ever feel like that I somehow missed that and I'm not fully tuned in today, if that makes sense. I put everything in 100 to our kids when they were growing up, as I'm doing now as they are grown and we have grandkids. And I think that makes a massive difference. Fliffer says, the quiet week. Fat Damon says, watching your children fail at something and letting them learn how to fix it on their own. Yep. Trying your best and still coming up short. It's tough, man. That's one thing when I talk about having given it my all in all of those years and raising the children, walking hand in hand with my wife, their mother. It's tough, feeling at the times you came up short. But it's that, like anything in life, right? It's getting back up and giving it your best the next time. TikToker says, feeling like you failed. Man, you only fail if you stop trying, I promise. Don't blame others says, absolutely everything. Rewarding, but everything is the hardest. I don't disagree. Scott says, not messing up anybody that looks their way must be learning sometimes. Wait, I don't know. Hold on. What does that mean? Scott says, not messing up anybody that looks their way must be learning sometimes. I'm not sure I really get that. I'll figure out how to respond to that. By the way, all the comments that you're making, I will respond. I'm going to respond to them. There are over 600 comments now in this post that said that I asked, what's the hardest thing about being a father? The feeling you can't protect them, but only be there for them as they grow into young adults. I'm just going to comment on this real quick. Absolutely. That will, hold on, will be the blessing of legacy we leave him, is what I'm going to say. Okay. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have 3 or 4 hours of solid work of answering comment. I want to reply to all of them. So this is, if you look at the post, it's the amount of people that are replying now has just gotten crazy. I see Uchilla, Snickers says, I'm not a perfect father, brother, husband, and son, but I will always work to be there and be present. So the hardest thing about being a father is leaving a legacy for them. I love that. Let's talk about legacy for just a second. That's what I was just responding to here, is that I think that one of the most important things, I saw this comment, and I'm sorry, my mustache is driving me crazy. One of the things that I saw a few weeks ago was a comment about the one thing, we're going to be our children's memories at some point. When we're gone, they're going to be left with the memories of us. And that memory is what is our legacy. That is what will get them through life. Legacy is what we're working towards in all of this. If we think to ourselves, we're going to live to be, a million years, or we're going to live forever, we're not. None of us are. And so that being the case, what are you working towards ultimately? Right? And a lot of that as a father for me is what I'm going to leave as a memory for them. That is a legacy that they'll continue to carry on. And I think we live in a world that is so focused on self-satisfaction and, and the stuff that we want and I want, and it's all about me, that none of those things. It's why it's like this paid live stream I'm doing on December 1st is going to deal with that very specifically, and what we can actually do that leaves more legacy than we ever thought we could leave behind because of technology and tools. But the point I'm making is that legacy isn't about getting the reward for what I'm doing with my children and family right now. Legacy is about what I know that when I'm leaving and it's time for me to go, what is being left behind in them and what will happen for generations. And it's easy to sit back and say, yeah, but I don't get any benefit of that. Oh my goodness. Let me just tell you, brother, that is your focus, everything that you do, mistake, right thing, positive, all the things that you do bring the kind of meaning to it that you'll never experience if you simply look at it like, well, they're just going to be gone and they don't give me any gratitude and appreciation. I'm telling you, it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference. That's where I'm at. Those memories are very important, 100%. My father left nothing, including memories. Those are chains we have to break. Those are chains we have to break. My personal example, and this isn't by way of wanting to there's no bragging in this. I grew up in a fatherless home. Now, I had a mom and a grandmother that I knew loved me. We were always poor. We always lived in apartments, but I always had food to eat one way or another, whether it was my mom, on food stamps, or my grandmother helping out, or my mom working as hard as she could because she was one of the hardest workers I ever met, as was my grandmother. But I didn't grow up with a father in the home. So how in the world did I turn out to be a man who felt so strongly about family? I've been married 37 years. We've raised 6 kids. I reestablished a relationship with my father in my 20s before we had kids because I wanted my kids to know what a grandfather was. I didn't really have that. And how does that happen? I don't know, but I know that I broke a generational chain that needed to be, or I repaired a generational chain that needed to be repaired. And you have the same opportunity. You're probably doing the same exact thing right now. And that makes all the difference. I appreciate. One thing I'm going to do too, every time I see a father with a child, I'm going to actually say to them, thank you for being a father. We say to our military personnel, thank you for your service, and mean it. I don't know that fathers, why can't we do the same thing in society as fathers? Why can't we say, and teach like part of the work I'm doing at Fatherhood Reclaimed, or I intend to do at Fatherhood Reclaimed, is to say, culture and society need to look at fatherhood the way that it should be looked at, the way that it once was, with admiration and respect, right? And so I'm going to commit to, and I'll report on it, I'm going to commit to every time I see a father, I was thinking about this the other day. Every time I see a father with a child, so I know that I'll say, is this your son or daughter or your kids, whatever? Thank you for being a father. That's it. And see what happens. Okay, let's read some more comments. And guys, thank you. If you're out there and you're just looking through the window of TikTok, hop on in and tell us, give a comment. 18 and 15 to here. Are you saying you have an 18 and a 15-year-old? Is that what you're saying? Because I'll tell you, if that's what you're saying, thank you for being a father. See, we'll start the trend right now. Imagine if we did that for each other in public. If we just saw someone that was a dad sitting with their kids and we simply said, thank you for being a father. We don't have to judge them what kind of father they are, but the fact that they're taking on the role to some degree. Yeah, that's awesome. So Dexter, thank you for being a father, brother. They're great kids. They're great kids because of their parents. That's, a huge part of it. So that's awesome. Thank you for being a dad. I'm going to shave this mustache off. No, I'm not, because I'm going to grow my beard back more. God, the comments, man, on this post are just flowing. It'll take me hours to respond to all these, and I love it. Bacon Rider says, trying not to let my past trauma define my son's future. Wow. I'm going to reply to that right now and tell him I was just talking about that on my live stream. And the importance of breaking those chains. And so I'll do the same thing here. Thank you. Thank you for being that kind of father. Love your content. Keep it up. Dexter, thank you, brother. I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate it. Listen, for those that are interested, I do have a paid live stream coming up. It'll be an incredible experience. I'll just do a quick plug on that. The link is in my bio. You can kind of learn more about it, or you can go to takingbackfatherhood.com to learn about more of what I'm doing and what I'm launching with all of this. But thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was a plug. Sorry. Okay, let's get back to some other comments. Cody Hawk says, juggling being able to provide and be present. Yep, that's the ongoing struggle. Joe Anthony Madrano says, raising someone you can't live without so they can one day learn to live without. That quote's coming up a lot. I didn't figure out who said that because that quote's coming up a lot. One Dino says, doing it on my own, but so worth it. Nobody else's input. I'm gonna comment to some of these. 100%, 100 worth it. Let me get my hands on the right keys. Doggone it. Jay Briseno. The constant worry every day if you're doing your best and being a dad, a friend, a hero, a provider, a person that is that number one they can turn to anytime. Yeah, I'm going to answer this one too. A lot of these are brand new comments. Just had to talk to my daughter through the hard loss in soccer. She takes it so hard sometimes. Micah, yeah, I can. But that loss is what they're going to learn from. Hey, brother, I meant to contact you several times this week because we were supposed to get together yesterday. I'm so sorry. My week got slammed. And so I've just been like going to bed at 2 a.m. and getting up at 7. And so I apologize. We're going to get together, my friend. I meant to message you last night and it just got crazy. This one post that's popping off right now, I don't know, 25 or 30,000 views so far and over 600 comments or something. And I spent hours. I spent probably 5 or 6 hours responding. We're talking about the comments right now. So, JJ Briseno, again, I'll read this, says, the constant worry every day if you are doing your best at being a dad, a friend, a hero, a provider, a person that is that number one they can turn to anytime. That tells me that you are that father. I mean, the fact that he would just take the time to say that. And as a father with grown children, you will be that number one. It's my experience. I'm just responding to this comment in real time. That number one they can turn to. Thank you. I'm going to start saying thank you to everything. Thank you for being that. I'm running out of characters. I guess I'll just end with that. Thank you for that. Okay, let's keep going on. Xavier says, watching them grow up and losing the younger version of them, missing that younger version as if you lost someone, but you didn't. They are there in front of you, all grown up. Hold on a second here. Let me make sure. Yeah, I'm gonna answer this one too. Hold on. Let me know what missed messages over here. Floppy Mouse, having to work a lot of hours and not being able to spend much time with your kids. That's that balance, right? That's that balance we talked about, knowing that we're providers, knowing that we have to be away from them when we want to be with them. It's a tough balance. It's a tough balance. Going back to Xavier, watching them grow up and losing the younger version of them, missing that younger version as if you lost someone, but you didn't. They're just different in front of you, all grown up. I'm going to respond to this in real time as well. And I'm just going to say, having raised 6 that are now adults on their own is an entirely new blessing. I never expected. That maybe it's the proof of all the years of effort. Okay. There's so many to respond to. All right, Dame McCarthy or Dame McNulty says, never having enough time for them and everything else, never being able to get them what they want, never feeling good enough, feeling like I'm not providing enough, feeling like they would be better off if I would have just tried harder when I was younger. Oh my goodness. I'm going to get back to answering that one. Daniel Rendon, well, seeing them grow up and mature and become men themselves is truly a blessing, but the hardest is missing to be able to lift them every time they fall. I hear you, man. Yeah. Knowing they're going to fall and not always being able to lift them up from that point, but that's the strength that we build within ourselves, and that's how they're going to build the strength within themselves as well, right? Boston Chris says, hardest thing being a father, best thing being a father. 100. I'm going to respond to some of these that are easy. Will save me some hours later. Absolutely. All right, let me use the restroom real quick. Again, pop in if you're just over on TikTok. Pop on in if you're just looking through the window and say hello. Leave something about what's the hardest thing about being a father. I'll be right back. All right, let me check something here really quick. I want to do something real quick. Okay, let's get back to reading some comments. Oh my goodness, I did that again. Oh, I just messed up. I got to go all the way back. Let's see. I'm going to redo that. Let's see what the comments are up to since we've just been live in the last little bit here. So we're at 23,400 views, 577 comments. I have so many to get back to. All right, let me scroll down here to the ones. I want to read a lot of these new ones, so I'll kind of know what to anticipate when I go back to answer them all. Hundreds and hundreds of comments. And thank you for these. That's one of the things in doing this. I want to make that point again. One of the things in doing this is I hope that people, as they're listening to these comments, or if you read them on your own, that you understand that all of these sentiments, there's so many common threads, and many of them are going to resonate with you because you're feeling the same thing. Okay, let me get down. Okay. Gilbert says, hiding how you really feel all the time. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to respond to that. Working all the time to provide for their needs, then coming home, noticing how much they've grown while I'm gone. Yeah, it's the bittersweet. I'm going to reply to this really quick. It's the bittersweet. It's the bittersweet part of fatherhood. I should say it's one of the bittersweet parts of fatherhood for sure. It's one of Haas says, hardest thing so far for me is explaining to my stepkids why the bio dad did all those horrible things. Oh my goodness. Haas, brother. Hold on. I want to make sure the music is still okay. Yeah, wow. That is how many of you can relate to something like that? I mean, you know, I can tell you I gotta be careful on some things. I've never experienced anything like that, but that is, we talk about breaking chains. I talk about breaking chains of the past, right? And rebuilding new connections. And that's an incredibly difficult one, to be a stepdad and have to take in the role and heal children from a father experience they had. Here's what I would say. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for taking that on. Wow. That's a tough one. Noid says, teaching them to stay. All right. Okay. So I already read some of these. Let me get down. I accidentally reset. I'm going to get down. These are so many new comments. Okay. Chesa says, honestly, the hardest part is pretending I'm not tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, so my kids never feel the weight I'm carrying. You get good at swallowing your own stuff so they can keep their childhood. You're constantly trying to be there, calm, even when your life feels loud, and nobody really prepares you for how heavy that quiet responsibility is, but you do it anyways because those two little faces make every bit of it worth it. So absolutely on spot. So on spot. Oh my goodness, why can't I? So perfectly well said. And accurate. Thank you for being that kind of father. Yeah, I'm going to read that one again. So Chase says, honestly, so obviously, so those that are, if you're not seeing it, we're talking about, I put the question up, what's the hardest thing about being a father? Chase says, honestly, the hardest part is pretending I'm not tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, so my kids never feel the weight I'm carrying. You get good at swallowing your own stuff so they can keep their childhood. You're constantly trying to be there calm, even when your life feels loud. And nobody really prepares you for how heavy that quiet responsibility is, but you do it anyway because those two little faces make every bit of it worth it. How much more perfectly could you say that? I'm gonna tell them as well. Just share that on my live stream. So accurate. I just shared that on my live stream. Should we switch songs? I have 10 AI songs about fatherhood that we created. Let's bring up another one real quick. Let me see here. All right, we'll do this one. I hope you guys can hear it. It's reverberating. Okay, AA Ron, he actually has it as AA Ron, knowing I won't be there for their hardest days. Royal Mobile Detail, watching my daughter hold her dog while while I was being put to sleep. Yeah. I got to scroll down. Those are a bunch of ones I've read. Let me get back up to these other new comments. Okay, the strategic Mick or Mike. The strategic Mike, it looks like. Understanding we made the choice to bring them into this world, so your only expectation should be on ourself to be there no matter what, with no expectations from them. I'm going to say, so true. Thank you for being that kind of father. Levine says, watching them fall or fail at something, followed by being strong enough to let them learn from it, growing up and learning that not everyone is a winner, needs to come back. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. So true. So true. This is another song. We did 10. So I have a son who's a musician, a musician, and he's working on, we're going to produce a ton of digital, ton of AI songs around fatherhood. And he's working on learning some of the real production tricks. So it doesn't totally sound like AI, but these are all AI songs. All right, let's see more comments here. What's the hardest thing about being a father? Let me get up to some, I think there's a bunch of new ones right here. JJ Thorpe says failure is the hardest thing. When you feel like you have failed them, teaching them to be great men, fathers, and husbands to be. I'm going to respond to this. I'm just going to say this is such a common thread. The fact that you're telling me this tells me that you haven't failed them. And that legacy will carry them through their lives. This is a song called Bedtime Reps. Some of these are really slow. Hold on just a second. We'll put this one in the background for a minute. You agree, failure? Sorry, I'm just looking at some of my background stuff here. All right, so, I'm just sitting here thinking, all these common threads are so powerful. It's a lot of what drives me in wanting to do what we're doing with Fatherhood Reclaimed and the stuff that we're going to be providing. And, I hope one of the big things that I really think about, I hope that men understand that when you feel like you're not doing your best, you probably are, or that you're failing, you probably are actually just the opposite. Hold on, let me read this comment from Chase. To every dad out there, this is the, let me go back up and find this. I don't know how to see. So I don't know if I can find the comment alert just popped up and he responded because I told him I just mentioned it on stream. Let me see if I can find this really quick and read his reply because I think he replies to this exactly. Because what he said was so spot on, but I may have scrolled way too far past it. Yeah, I don't know how live and going through the comments to find it again here. Maybe he'll pop into stream and he'll read to us what he responded. It was Chase. Oh, he's here. Chase. Hey, listen, I can't find the comment you just responded, but I think you were the one I talked about that was such an accurate thing. I'm trying to find it so that I can read it so he doesn't have to post posted in the chat. I'm sitting here scrolling. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I thought it was, oh, here it is right here. Got it. Okay. I'm trying to see how come I don't see the response? You may have done a new one. I thought it popped up with the response that you gave, but I'm not seeing it on here. One of the things, if you're not familiar, see if you can paste it. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to read it. If you're not familiar with me or what we're doing, I'll kind of give you guys a heads up. Didn't grow up with a father in the home. Have reestablished a relationship with my dad when I was newly married or right before I was married, so that our kids that we would have the experience of growing up with a dad. Been married for 37 years, raised 6 kids, lost our oldest to a struggle with mental health 4 years ago. Am now a grandfather of 6, and I just watched what society over decades has done. And we need to reverse. Fatherhood needs to be something aspired to and admired for every young man. And if you're not someone that's going to have the opportunity to have children or doesn't, then be a mentor. I think it's just ingrained into us. Doesn't let you too many characters. I'm trying to see if I refresh, I think I'll lose it. I'm not sure why it doesn't show up here. Probably because I need to refresh. For those that are wondering, what Chase originally said, honestly, the hardest part is pretending I'm not tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, so my kids never feel the weight I'm carrying. You get good at swallowing your own stuff so they can keep their childhood. You're constantly trying to be their calm, even when your life feels loud. Nobody really prepares you for how heavy that quiet responsibility is, but you do it anyway because these 2 little faces make every bit of it worth it. It's 100%. That's fatherhood in a nutshell. But what I'll tell you as now a grandfather and a father of all, of children that are all on their own, building their own lives, the reward of that comes now. And knowing that you've built in them and forged a legacy in them that will carry through generations, regardless of where you came from or what change you had to break from the past, it's an amazing experience now. Absolutely amazing experience now. I wonder if I do this. No, that didn't do it. I did the wrong thing. Hold on. Let me try something here really quick. God, almost 600 comments on this. It's just crazy. I think this is this is a new comment. Maybe this is a way I can do it to look at the new ones. Adam Bomb 420 said, doing and sacrificing everything I possibly can every day from the second my eyes open, giving everything down to my last breath and still feeling guilty, ashamed, and always having the burden of it all being my fault, that it still isn't enough. Oh, crap. Okay. I hit the wrong thing. Hold on. Reply. This is crazy. I guess I'm trying to get to where I can, if I hit reply. Okay, hold on. Oh my goodness, I don't know why it's doing this. All right, I got to go back and do it the hard way. Let me go back over to my profile. I'm trying to beat the system here. The challenge is it doesn't bring up new comments in the right way. That's all. All right, I can see that the ones I haven't responded to, so let me go through and I want to keep responding to these, keep the algorithm popping, and save me several hours of work when I'm off stream. H. Wally, we haven't seen you live in a while. I've been live a lot lately. Not gaming, but live a lot. But I'm glad you're here, my friend. Thank you for saying hello. We're having a conversation about what's the hardest thing about being a father. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of comments that I'm trying to read and kind of sort through. Lewis, what's happening? What's happening, my friend? Good morning, good morning, good morning. See, if I want to, I don't know, if I hold it here, having to have superhuman strength as a mortal man to show my children that even, oh, see, it goes away. Okay, let me see if I can find some of these new comments. We'll read them out. We'll read them on stream. I just don't, it's funny because TikTok mixes them in. Left Lane Life says, not knowing I'm doing it right or not, or knowing I have to do better. I'm going to answer this one as well, because the fact that you're even asking that tells me that even if you're not doing it perfectly, you're doing it right. Thank you for being that kind of father. Michael says, not feeling needed anymore. Oh, man. I tell you what, even though you feel that way, it's not... you are needed, trust me. Going to be a dad next weekend. I remember, congratulations. God, such an exciting time to be a first-time dad. Such an amazing time. Hold on, I'm just looking some stuff up here really quick. Okay, what else we got here? Louis going to be a dad next weekend. What a great Christmas gift. Early Christmas gift. Some of these many of you have, there's not that many people in here, but the inner conflict of need to work and provide or stay home. Either way, you feel some sort of guilt. Absolutely. One of the challenges of being a committed provider. I'm going to keep saying thank you all the time. Thank you for being that kind of father. Giving your children everything they need, most of what they want, and making still understand the struggles that got you where you are without making them live the same struggles and pain that made you the person you are. Yeah. It's such a paradox. The paradox of, I'm going to respond. So true. The paradox of wanting them to build the same strength and resilience, but not wanting them to suffer the pains. All right, let's switch songs here. These are all songs we created for a new album, a digital AI album. We're going to be doing a bunch of music. One of my sons is a musician, and he's going to actually kind of take on some producer kind of stuff with all of this. Let's see which one this one is. On the trails with Chubbs. Hardest thing about being a father, watching my kids grow up. I got to tell you, that is a super, super common thread. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for coming by and sharing that. Hardest thing about being a father, watching my kids grow up. Let me just tell you, as a father who's all of his kids have grown up, I'll tell you what made it easier for me. We were talking about this. I was so 100% invested and as present in everything I could be as being the best father I could be, not perfect by any measure. When the kids were growing up, I didn't fear them growing up I looked forward to maybe the fruits of my labors as they got older. And now we see that. Now I see that we created strong, resilient, capable, incredible kids. And, which was what made it even more hard when we lost our oldest son 4 years ago to a battle with mental health that came on very quickly. We had no indication of that. But I say that now I'm enjoying so much the relationship that we have now with them as adults, because there's a lot more acknowledgement or a lot more, appreciation for everything that we do as fathers that flowed back in. And so I look back and think, would I ever want to repeat the days when they were young? And my answer is no, because I gave it all that I had. And it's not that I'm not sentimental, it's that I'm so invested in where they are now. And I think a lot of parents, a lot of dads will feel that same thing as time goes on. I mean, it's absolutely, so there are several common threads of people that are commenting on this, right? Like that. And I'm telling you that give it your all. Don't worry about being perfect, because man, the years that you're going to get with them when they're adults and they're building their own lives, it won't be the same. They're not going to be with you every day. They're not going to talk to you every day, as they shouldn't. But it's going to be filled with blessings you never anticipated. Let's read some new comments here. The hardest part for me is my favorite part, and that's watching them grow up. See, now that's another perspective. It is the favorite part, watching them grow up, knowing what's coming. Absolutely. On the Trail, Chubb says 100%. Me and my youngest son are actually getting ready to head to the woods. I love that. I love that. That's just time that just can't ever be made up and replaced. That's legacy building time. Thank you for being that kind of father. Thank you. Terry Hamilton says, even though you work, bleed, suffer, and worry over everything you do for them, and the world knows you do enough, you never think it's good enough. That's true. You won't think you were enough, or that you did good enough. But I'll tell you this, I feel like, because we all feel that with our children all being grown now, I maybe feel like I didn't do enough, or I wonder, did I do enough? But what I would tell you is I did my best. I absolutely gave it my all when our kids were young and we were raising them. He fell asleep last weekend in the stand. Those are just cherished memories, though. Those are cherished memories. I love that. Justin says, always trying to be strong, always trying to show her the positives in life. I can't say enough about that either. I think it's, we want to protect our kids from a lot of the bad things that are happening in life, but I'd also say that we need to prepare them for all of the amazement in life and all the positive things they're going to experience, because they are there. They are there. Some of these are, I'm trying to find some of the new ones, because a lot of these I've answered, and I will reply to every one of the comments. For me, when I dropped them off at their mom, it was never supposed to be this way. Yeah, that's brutally tough. That's incredibly difficult. Ideally, I think it's supposed to be the way that we got to experience it, right? My wife and I have been married 37 years. We're best friends. It's our kids grew up in a home that they knew that they were loved, and my wife was able to stay home, and we lived about as ideally as you possibly could, though we had plenty of struggles, losing everything twice, in our marriage, having to rebuild through all of that, all of the struggles. But, almost all of our kids growing up years, from the time they were young to when they left, my wife was able to stay home with them, and I was able to provide. That's not the ideal situation everyone gets to experience. I didn't experience that myself growing up. I grew up without a father in the home, grew up in Los Angeles, living in apartments and, never having anything fancy. I always had food, and I always knew I was loved. And sometimes that came from food stamps or, government help from my mom, but she was an incredibly hard worker in trying to provide. But that being said, it doesn't mean you can't break the chain. It doesn't mean that you can't do the absolute best that you can do in any situation. But I get it. It's not the way it's supposed to be if you have to do it alone. I think if struggles are on the trails to Chubbs, I think if you don't struggle, you don't grow. Listen, that's probably one of the toughest dilemmas, right? One of the hardest things about being a father is, I would say, not wanting our kids to suffer through the things that we suffered through, or the challenges and mistakes, the consequences of challenges and mistakes. But if they don't grow, they don't build any strength, right? If there's no opposition, no failure, no struggle at all, how are they ever going to have the strength to make it the way that we've had the strength to make it? But our intuition is, as fathers, to want to protect them from that. And yet we can't, which also makes it really hard when we know and we watch and we see what's going to happen. The difference is, are we going to be there to lift them back up? Right? That's going to be the difference. Wishing you didn't have to miss out on the time with them so you can provide for them. Yeah, the reality. That's the reality in being provider. Trying to make them understand that the hard lessons are to prepare them for the harsh world and raise them to live without you. It's all true. I hope there's balance, though. I know that that's obviously critically true. We're not going to be here with them forever. But the memories we leave them is the legacy they'll carry on to get them through the struggles of life. But I hope we also are finding a balance in letting them know of all of the incredible things you're going to experience, all the positive, all the beauty, all of the things that are here to be had, without just growing up in fear. I hope that we're instilling that in them as well. Choosing to go to work to provide for his family or stay home and spend time with the family, can't provide for them and never do enough. Yeah, we talked about that common thread. Ivan says, learning to love 3 beautiful kids that need a home. That is one of the best gifts that God has granted me. I'm telling you, children and fatherhood is the greatest single experience a man can ever have in his life. I'm just going to say that very strongly. Adam Baum says, doing and sacrificing everything I possibly can every day from the second my eyes open, giving everything down to my last breath and still feeling guilty, ashamed, and always having the burden of it all being my fault, that it still isn't enough. I replied to that. I'm pretty sure I replied to that. I haven't yet. That's going to be a long answer. And I will reply to every one of these messages. I've already spent 5 or 6 hours doing it. I love it. Phil says, raising your kids to teach them partnership, loyalty, love, sacrifice, dedication, accountability. Then this is common as well. The other parent shows the opposite. I won't read all the details. That's not the way it's supposed to be, but it's a reality for many. And that's really tough when you have to co-parent. I didn't have to experience that. But when you have to co-parent, and deal with 2 completely different perspectives your kids are being exposed to from people that supposedly love them is that's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. 82A says losing time with them because you have to work 2 jobs just to make sure they get everything they deserve. Yep. I'll answer a couple of these just because I'm gonna have hundreds to answer after the stream. And one of the greatest challenges of fatherhood. Thank you. I'm going to keep saying thank you a lot now. Thank you for being one of those kinds of fathers. Maybe we don't say thank you enough to each other. I think there's a lot to be said for that, right? I think there's a lot to be said for that. Hey, thank you for all the likes, the follows, the shares, the comments. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. If you have, if you're just looking through the window on TikTok, pop on in and say hello. You don't have to share what's hardest about parenting if you don't want to, but we'd love for you to. Okay. Dane McNulty says, never had enough time for them and everything else, never being able to get them what they want, never feeling good enough, feeling like I'm not providing enough, feeling like they'd be better off if I would have just tried harder than when I was younger. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna move my chair back a little bit and just chill here. That's too much. Not having enough time for them, everything else, not being able to come on. You know, one of the biggest common threads that I'm seeing over and over and over is men that feel like they're just not doing enough. And I'm telling you, the fact that you actually say that proves that you are. And this is one of the things with Fatherhood Reclaimed, with all the stuff that we're going to be doing, is that to get men to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder as a brotherhood, to say, you know, I don't need ooey gooey, warm and fuzzy, you know, sharing of emotions. I need to know that, you know, we're all in the same battle and we're facing the same things, and that I'm going to be able to do this the same way that you did, that we can stand side by side, that I'm not alone. Because I just want to reassure, you know, all the people that feel this way that I understand it as a man who's raised, you know, 6 children with my wife to, you know, adulthood and now beyond, that you're doing better than you think you are. You are doing better than you think you are. But it's easy to get lost and not, if we don't, you know, feel the appreciation, or that society doesn't respect or admire us as fathers. It's easy to feel like we're not, especially as the world becomes more complicated and more difficult to manage, but also more amazing and wonderful. But I'm telling you, the vast majority of you, if not, you know, almost all of you, are doing way better than you think you're doing. Raising the ones you can't live without preparation. Yeah, that's a quote. I think I'm getting that over and over and over. Not knowing if I'm right for the job. I'm gonna respond to this here really quick. The simple fact that you're asking that you're wondering that, means that you are. Bert, I'm going through a pretty aggressive argument with my wife right now. When I see my son smiling, it's tough. When he's not knowing what's going on, it's tough not knowing what's going on. When he's smiling and you're having to keep it like behind the scenes, is that what you're saying? I think I understand what you're saying, Bert. Yeah. That's tough, man. That's another thing. It's having to God, should I share something even? I'll share something with you again. Rich, I'll read your comment here in just a second. When I was 12 or 13, my mom's second husband, so my mom's passed away 20 years ago. But my mom's second husband, so I grew up in a home without a father. My mom and dad divorced when they were very young. And they were young and I was a baby. And then she remarried for a very short time to a man that the first day they were together, we were living in a single wide trailer in California, and he smacked her around. And I remember being shocked by that. That was my mom. And I remember taking him into my little room in the single wide trailer saying, "Why would you do that to my mom?" And hats off to my mom. He left she basically said, "Get out of here right now." And her biggest concern obviously was me. And she packed us up within like 20 minutes and we left, never saw him again. And I knew she would have done everything she possibly could have to protect me from seeing that. So I hear what you're saying. Rich says, whoops, it's the days I miss is being wanted, not just needed to answer questions. It's the days I miss. Yeah, I think what you're saying, Rich, and I get it. I think what you're saying is that's that appreciation, like you want to be. We want to be. We don't need a lot as fathers. We really don't. I think we're geared and built to handle the responsibility of fatherhood and all of its pressures. But the fuel that keeps it really going, that keeps the steam at full pressure, is a little appreciation and a little, not even that we need understanding, it's appreciation. I think my wife and I think women, in general need more understanding, whereas men need more appreciation. I could be totally wrong, just my experience in my life and marriage. Yeah, thank you, Bert. And so I think that's one of the things. I don't want this to sound like a Dear Abby thing, this is a daddy feel good channel. Look, fatherhood's brutal. We're built for it. It's a battle. It matters. Legacy is important. Everything about what we're doing carries generational power, and society needs to step up and bring that level of recognition. And that's what with Fatherhood Reclaimed, part of my intent is to get society to step back up to where they need to be, and culture to bring the respect and admiration and inspiration for future fathers of what it is to be a father. So I don't want this to feel like, let's all commiserate about what the hardest things are. When I'm reading these comments, I intend that to be something to help you understand you're not alone in all of this. And that's the biggest thing. So when I share these comments, it's not, oh, I feel so warm and fuzzy and I feel so good about, it's not. Listen, fatherhood's brutal. It's I'm not taking anything away from motherhood. That's a completely different level. I could never, I'm amazed at what my wife does and has done through our kids' lives as mother. I wish I had that kind of power and strength in so many ways, but I do know what my role as father is, and I've done the best I can. What I'm trying to do with Fatherhood Reclaimed, with all the things and reading these comments, like I said, is to get men to understand that it's normal to feel like it sucks a lot. It's normal to have it be very difficult, but the rewards are unbelievable. It is the single greatest thing you'll ever do. It's a single greatest. Being a father is the single greatest thing you'll ever do in your entire life, because it's also the hardest thing you'll ever do. Let's read some more comments from other dads. Mr. Biscuit, selling all my time to a company that I could be spending with my boys. That's the provider element. Curtis says, choosing the wrong person to have kids with. Oh, yeah. Whew, that's a tough one. John W., always worrying that they are safe for the rest of their lives. You'll never be able to protect them. I'm not a worrier, so I don't really, my mom was a horrendous worrier. A lot of people around, or my wife's more of a worrier, not the way my mom was. But I think that's also a role oftentimes of mothers. A lot of times mothers have to deal with it every day to day. But I'm not a worrier, but that feeling of wanting to protect my children from all the things they're going to face is there, but I recognize I can't. So if I can't change that, I'm not going to worry about it. Hoping I give enough and make enough for them to be good when I'm gone. Yep. That's legacy. That's what we're talking about. That's legacy. Trying to prove to all of them how much you truly love them. No matter what you do, you never feel good enough, strong enough, love enough, never enough. I'm going to reply. This is Tim. I'm going to reply to Tim. I hear you, Tim. Why isn't this working? Trying to prove how much you love her. I can tell you as a father of 6 that that you're doing better than you think. But you may only see it on their own. And I don't have enough characters. Oh. All right, let's read some more comments. Viking says, knowing I won't always be here to protect her from the evil of this world. I mean, the protection that we build in them for when we can't be there is the beauty, right? The things that we can instill in them from the lessons we teach them while they're growing up will be the legacy that will carry them through to be able to stand against all the things they'll face when we're not there. That's all. That's the best that we can work towards. And it's amazing, and it happens. But we don't want them to suffer. I get it. Alex De La Garza says, watching them grow and knowing that one day the rooms they once slept in are going to be empty without them. That's the way it's meant to be. Ray Hardesty, watching them grow up and knowing you won't be able to protect them, everything you promised when they were little. I would say that having grown children now, that I would say that my kids clearly understand that I'm not going to be there to protect them through everything, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. Joe Anthony Madrano, raising someone you can't live without. So that phrase, I think that's got to be a famous quote. Corey says, having to have superhuman strength as a mortal man to show my children that even when times are the hardest, we still have to carry on. but no one will ever feel the self-disappointment, regrets, the choices I was forced to make in order for them to be happy as a father, or the 3 jobs I worked staying out of town to keep the lights on, keep them fed, and sacrifice myself for them, not me. I'm going to tell Corey here. So I can tell you, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm trying to type when hold on a second. Let me fix all this. Jeez Louise. I'm responding to this message of Corey. Having to have superhuman strength as a mortal man to show my children that even when times are the hardest, we still have to carry on. But no one will ever feel the self-disappointment, regrets, and the choices I was forced to make in order for them to be happy as a father, or the 3 jobs I worked staying out of town to keep the lights on, keep them fed, and sacrifice myself for them, not me. I hear you. And I will tell you, as a father of 6 now adult children, it will all come back to you in ways you never imagined and be a blessing of legacy. Shoot. I'm out of characters. I think it's, listen, I guess I should just be, like, if you listen to the phrase of this song that we created, listen to what the song says here. I love this song. I love when we created this. Let me kind of just, I think here's the biggest thing that I think will make the number one single greatest change in fatherhood for you. This is me speaking from my personal experience. This is 100% my opinion. Because I believe that fatherhood is the absolute greatest gift that a man can ever experience in his life, I want to make very clear that it has nothing to do with us, in the sense that it's not about what we get out of it. And if we make that the priority, then we're going to miss all the blessings that come with it and the legacy we leave behind. And so, and I think that when we realize that we're sacrificing for something much greater than ourselves, not that it takes the difficulty away completely, not that it makes the sorrow or the self-doubt or any of the struggle go away completely, but it should make it more bearable, and it should get you through those times. And I think as men, we need more and more to see that. We need to understand that there's nothing about making it easier. There's no single father that's had fatherhood be easy. And we all have different challenges, and those challenges are our responsibility to overcome. But by the same token, we do need, and I think as we stand together, we do need to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder. And, I'm not a ooey gooey, share my feelings kind of a father or a man, but it is nice to know that I'm in the same battle with so many other dads that are struggling through the same kinds of things, and that we're doing it for the right reason because we're building something bigger. I mean, obviously I could get off on a whole rant about the society we live in and what kinds of things people are experiencing now. And it is, we've become incredibly self-centered and narcissistic, right? Sacrifice has become more about self-satisfaction and not sacrifice at all. And for the men of those of us that are out there trying to be the best fathers, best men we can be, society doesn't value that or reward that in the same way it used to. That's just an extra burden we carry, and we need to end that. We got to stop that. So, Lone Arctic Wolf, knowing I'm incapable of being perfect for my kids and my shortcomings will mold them. I'm going to tell you, I appreciate what you're saying there. And let me just say this. It's not your shortcomings will mold them to agree if they know that you're doing your best and that your shortcomings are just because we have shortcomings. But it will mold them in the positive way because you recognize you can't be perfect, but you can be your best, right? And that's what I hope men get inspired by. Just be your best. When we were raising our kids and they're all young, they're all grown now, all 6 of them. I can tell you that I gave it my all. I gave it my all. And it was far from perfect, and it was far from enough what I felt like I would have liked to have done, but I gave it my all. And that's what's molded our children. That's what they recognize. That's why we have the relationship we have with our children even now. Gosh, so many comments coming through. We are at 615 comments on this one post, and I'm trying to get through, and I've already spent about 5 or 6 hours, about 5 hours between last night and this morning answering. I want to answer and reply to every comment. So some of the ones I'm reading on here that I'm sharing with you, I'm going to try to answer as well. Man, thank you for sharing that though, Lone Arctic Wolf. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. I'm with you. A good dad doesn't see it that way. You just keep doing things because you want to see them happy. If they are happy, you should be happy too. I work a lot, but the other day, my son said to my daughter, my dad is awesome. And that's the best feeling in the world. Let me read that again. It's funny. This just ties into exactly what I was just saying, right? So Manny Design says, a good dad doesn't see it. So I'm responding to the question. Oh, the song stopped. Sorry. A good dad doesn't see it that way. You just keep doing things because you want to see them happy. If they are happy, you should be happy too. I work a lot, but on the other day, my son said to my daughter, my dad is awesome. And that's the best feeling in the world. I'm going to respond to him real quick and just say, I was just making that point on my live stream. And it's so well said. Yes, fatherhood is the toughest thing a man can do, but also the greatest blessing. This will help me. I have so many to respond to when I hop off stream. Dan says, my 14-year-old daughter are estranged right now. Hold on, let me back up here. My 14-year-old daughter are estranged right now. Her mother sabotaged our relationship. You pay your child support. Listen, I got to tell you, Dan, that is, it's heartbreaking for me because co-parenting, I'm finding now more times than not is exactly what you're describing. You're trying to do the best that you can, and just because you weren't able to stay with the mom, why can't we just not leverage the children to hurt one another either way or both ways? Why can't we simply say for co-parents, and again, this is not my experience, so I have no way. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm just asking. It happens so often. Why can't, regardless of the feelings, and I know there's hurt obviously between couples that divorce. I know that, but it shouldn't be put on to the kids, and kids should never be leveraged because now here you are in a situation like you're talking about, estranged from your daughter, and it should never be that way. Your daughter needs you. I mean, your daughter needs you, and her mother needs to understand that, because what she's going to provide as a mother is not the same of what you need to be able to provide as a father. Makes my heart ache. I never said I'd stop. I just know it will never be enough, and I fear failing them. It's an ongoing battle. Um, this is common, Lone Arctic Wolf. This is common in all the threads that we're reading right here. Is feeling like it'll never be enough. But I'm telling you, I've had those feelings. I understand it. Raising 6 kids. How do you, can you imagine? I'll just put, we talked about this. For those that are in stream that haven't heard me say this, we lost our oldest son 4 years ago. On this December 7th, it'll be 4 years ago. So to a battle with mental health that came on very quickly. Last year and a half or so of his life, we never saw it coming. There was no reflection gone back, what we could have done differently. But I will tell you, it was a whole nother level of feelings, especially that last year of his life and all the sleepless nights and tear, filled hugs and all of that, to wonder, had I done enough? Could I have done more? Am I doing enough right now? And then ultimately to lose him. I understand the depth of those feelings. I understand in raising our other 5 children to adulthood and now them being on their own. I get it. But as I sat with, and I'll tell you this, and I would share the same kind of a thing. When I sat the day after we lost our son, so his 5 brothers and sisters were all in the room. I sat them down and I said, we're never going to say 2 words ever again about this experience. And those 2 words are, what if? What if I had done more? What if I'd done this? What if I had done that? Because I'm telling you, here's what matters. And this is the experience of 30 years of raising kids and, being 62 years old and married for 37 years. So this is unsolicited advice, but I'm going to tell you one thing, just doing your best is enough. If we stop measuring ourselves against, yeah, but this dad does that and that dad does this, who gives a rip? They have nothing to do with your life. What they have to do with is knowing that it's the same battle, but it's what we're built for. It's not about being perfect. It's not about knowing if you could have done more or should do more. It's about knowing that you did your best. And so going through the experience and, wishing I'd have done anything to fix my son's mental health situation, anything, you name it, I would have done. We tried everything we could think of, but ultimately we lost him. If I were to sit back the rest of my life and say, what if, did I do enough? I can't. I know I did my absolute best. And that wasn't perfect, and that wasn't everything, and it wasn't, not having wished I could have. I did my best. I did my best. And that will leave the strongest legacy in your children. I promise you that you could have anything you could ever do. I don't care if you buy them 10 cars. I don't care if they live in luxurious homes and take the world's best vacations. The thing that will build the longest lasting legacy in them will be knowing that you tried your best, knowing that every minute that you were there and present, not just physically, but emotionally, that's what will carry through in legacy. And that will be enough. It'll be enough. I promise. It'll be enough. So many more comments coming through. Holy moly. Caldana, accepting that as your babies grow each day, one day will come when they will not need you as much. That's part of life. Make me appreciate my parents that much more. Yep. I'm going to respond to this as well. Absolutely. And as a father of 6, Now all adults the rewards are all there for the sacrifice. Uncle Sanders. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. I do have a question, and I'm not a father yet, if you don't mind me asking. Do I still game? I was trying to the other night. I've got to get another stream PC, doing all the video stuff. Apparently, I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 6. Well, I was. I have not gamed nearly as much. People are asking, if you're wondering in stream, people are asking because I've been a game streamer for years, especially with the 1992 Foundation, the nonprofit we started after we lost our son, is about saving lives through gaming. We are going to be. I do want to launch as part of Fatherhood Reclaimed an esports mentorship program next year that we'll be putting out. So yeah, go ahead. Ask the question. Absolutely. I think one of the things, this is a big part of Fatherhood Reclaimed, is wanting to turn culture's view of fatherhood back to what it needs to be and should be, and that is admiration and respect and inspiration for those that are future fathers. My dad left me when I was a child, and it's one of the fears you have to leaving them. Look, I didn't grow up with a father in the home, but I also didn't grow up with my father leaving when I was old enough to recognize that, right? So they're different experiences. But I will tell you this, and this would be what I would say just from my personal experience. Don't leave. Stay in the fight. Now, I'm not saying if the mom, your future wife, if you marry the wrong person or whatever, I'm not saying stick that through, but never leave them. I don't care. When you become a father, in all of its blessings and all of its amazement and all of everything that goes along with it, there's also a massive responsibility. And you can leave, as many men are experiencing, the marriage, the relationship, not leave, but find yourself in divorce and separation and having to co-parent. Don't dare ever leave those kids. Even if that happens, we did a song. We did one of our AI songs about that exactly. So you don't want to be like your dad. Don't be like your dad. As tempting as it may be, and feeling like, well, that's the pattern. Break the chains of that. I did, so I can tell you that it's possible. Think about this. I grew up without a father in the home, raised by my mom and a grandmother that was there a lot. We never had anything that was financially, we always lived in apartments. But I always knew I was loved, and I always had something to eat, even if it wasn't much, even if it was from food stamps or government help at the time growing up in Los Angeles as a kid. I always had food, and I always had love. And how with that experience, and had a dad that I had some experience with when I was young, until eventually he just moved on with his wife, let me get to that. So then as an adult, how did I have such a focus on family and parenting? How did I not just replicate what my dad did and getting divorced when I was a baby from my mom? I built a relationship, reforged a relationship with him when I was an adult, because I knew I wouldn't want my kids to grow up without a grandfather. And he was a good man. He's passed away 20 years ago, but he was a good man. He married my stepmom's passed away. I have a stepbrother, stepsister who I love as though they were I didn't grow up with them in the home, but they are my brother and sister. How, going through all of that, did I end up being married for 37 years, raising 6 kids, now being a grandfather of 6 so far? And the answer is I chose to, just like you'll choose to. You just have to choose. You have to make the choice. You have to put that's it. It's simple. It's not difficult. I shouldn't say that. It's incredibly difficult. But somewhere along the line, you got to break the chains. Somewhere along the line, you got to stand up. And I'm telling you, we as men, you as a future father, you have it in you. We're geared for it. We're built for it. I can't tell you the differences as to why. I can tell you what my experience has been. I can tell you that in our home, my wife is the nurturer. She is the one, and we were fortunate enough in our situation to have kind of that ideal family, right? My wife stayed home raising our kids. We not that we were without our challenges because we lost everything in 2008 because the economy crashed. We've had to rebuild, but that's happened twice. COVID did that to us. We've had to rebuild, but her role is amazingly different and beautifully synergistic to mine. But I'm not the mom. I'm the dad. And she is geared to handle the things that she brings to the family the same way that we are as men. So when we walk away from that, we're walking away from what we're actually gifted with. And I think that's just so important to understand. Don't be like your dad. Don't say you don't want to. Don't be like your dad. Don't give your kids, your future kids, that same experience. And you won't. Break the chain. All right, getting back to some more of these comments here because they are just flooding in on this post. Big Bob 304, kids do 90% of what they see and listen to 10% of what they hear. Yeah, or listen to 10%. Okay, thank you. I had a grandpa as a father. There you go. There you go. I didn't have really any of that. And it turned out okay. And you did have that and model that. Listen, here's another thing too. Let me just say this real quick before I get back to reading comments. One of the things with Fatherhood Reclaimed and all the things that we're going to do is to provide that kind of role. I have a thing that we're going to launch it next year now, a program called Forging Elite Fatherhood. And that is taking groups of men and all of the experience. You can go to the website and you can download the link to that whole blueprint that I built. So for those of us that grew up without fathers, how do we really find and don't have role models outside of just learning by what's intuitive and learning the hard way, which can be done. I mean, I did it. We're going to help with that situation as well. Okay, let's read some more of these comments. Big Bob 304 says, kids do 90% of what they see and listen to 10% of what they hear. Yep, 100%. Absolute fact. I'm going to respond to that. Goy seeks, never being appreciated for the amount you do, but the lingering thought that all this can go away in a blink of an eye, and you're left with a hefty monthly bill that was not your fault. I have to think about that one. I have to respond to that one later. Chinook Chicken Hawk, not letting life and PTSD take you under. Time you have to work hard to provide for them, but you have to live in the shadows knowing they have all they ever need, but realizing you can't always be there in person. As a man and father, you never feel good enough. You shoulda, coulda been there more. You should have given more, worked harder. I got to respond to that. That was a little bit hard to read. I'm going to respond to that. Hold on a second. Let me use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. The rebirth demon. I think I know what that's all about. What's up, my friend? How's everyone's fatherhood going? Love that question. How is your fatherhood going? Man, I've got 5 or 6 hours to respond to all the new comments coming in, besides the 5 or 6 I've already spent. So Chinook Chicken Hawk. Not letting life and PTSD take you under. Time. You have to work hard to provide for them, but you have to live in the shadows knowing they have all they ever need, but realizing you can't always be there in person. As a man and father, you never feel good enough. You should have been there more. You should have given more and worked harder. I'm gonna have to respond to that one. Oh man, that's gonna be. I'm debating whether I should respond to that right now. Kurt Thomas, knowing that you were raising them to live without us. I'll respond. I'll just tell that. That's just legacy. Inkley, raising, loving, and teaching them how to survive without you. Super common. Daniel Alvarez, speaking as an empty nest dad, the hardest thing I found is I want to still protect them from everything, but I cannot. Nor was I ever meant to. Control their decisions. Your time to impart wisdom is a short season. Don't waste the short time you have. I mean, that's absolutely 100% on point. Absolutely 100% on point. I'm going to respond to that. Also, I'm going to say, as a father, as an empty nester as well, I can validate that 100%. Well said, my friend. Thank you for being that kind of dad and example to today's culture. That's good. It's good. Frank A60, the fact that you raised them to be independent and they leave, nothing can help you deal with that feeling. I got to answer so many of these. Being told to be a father, but not being allowed to show up to be a good father. Huh. I'm assuming that's probably a co-parenting situation, right? That's what I'm guessing. Forrest Gump, thank you for the gifts, my friend. Sorry, if you're still there, I think I missed those. I could put this back up. I haven't had this up here. Hold on just a second. I'm not sure what that one means. Being told to be, I think it's a co-parenting thing. Being told to be a father, but not being allowed to show up to be a good father. Yeah, I think that's what that is. Rigo says, once you put Jesus at the top and obey him, trust me, guys, father's everything and anything is easier. I agree. I agree. That's the perfect role model that's just my personal opinion. I am a person of faith. That's one of the things too. I think, we've grown up in a world where I would say that whatever, without getting into religious doctrine, one of the most important things to understand is having faith. If you don't have faith or hope in something, then the purpose when you go through the struggle is lost. When I tell fathers all of the time, um, my experience as a father largely was impacted because of my faith and looking for the kinds of roles. And again, not getting into religious doctrine, but they're just common things in terms of trying to be the best person you can be and knowing that there is something after this and building a legacy that will last through all of that is most of what makes it worth it. How do men walk away from things they're built to handle? Because they lose hope, they lose faith, 100%. All right, let's read some more here. So many comments. Go doer, wanting them to grow up where they don't need help with everything, but as they don't need help with everything, you lose a little bit every day. It's so, but I see it so differently. That's what we're supposed to do. And when that part of our life is over, we get to move to the next amazing part, which is being a father and grandfather in their adult years. Let's do this. I want to refresh this. Let's see how the comments have gone up. So we're almost at 27,000 views of this video. And all it was what's the hardest thing about being a father? And 642 comments. Golly. I'll give you an idea. It takes me, when I was on my phone this morning and last night, it takes me 100 comments takes me like 2 hours to respond to, and we've got like 300 more since I went live. I love it. It's amazing. Okay, so let me do this really quick. So this was the message that Chase that dropped. I read quite a bit ago. So he says he responded to the comment that I did, or that I sent to him. To every dad out there doing his best, even on the days it doesn't feel like enough, you're doing more than you think. Your kids don't see the doubts or the late nights. They see the man who keeps showing up. That consistency matters. Your effort matters. And even if nobody says it out loud, you're the backbone of somebody's whole world. Keep going. You're building something they'll carry forever. That's it's just absolutely spot on. Let me read this again. And I think this could be almost a mantra for a lot of people. To every dad out there, this is from Chase on TikTok. To every dad out there doing his best, even on the days it doesn't feel like enough, you're doing more than you think. Your kids don't see the doubts or the late nights. They see the man who keeps showing up. That consistency matters. Your efforts matter. And even if nobody says it out loud, you're the backbone of somebody's whole world. Keep going. You're building something they'll carry forever. That's the absolute probably definition of legacy, right? That's the definition of legacy. As I'm watching my screen, the comments that are just flooding in. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the comments. And I'm just going through reading these again. I think it's powerfully important for us as men to hear all of this so that we know we're not alone. I'm scrolling down to a lot of the new ones. I don't know why. The new ones get mixed in with all the comments that I've responded to. So I've got to scroll down and find them. Otherwise, I'd keep the flow just going. But when there's 650 comments, Medic XJ, showing up for my children's events at school and looked at like I'm not supposed to be there. Man, I could go on down a rabbit hole with this one. That is, yeah, medic. Let me, that kind of just sparks in me. The reason that I started Fatherhood Reclaimed initially, and this is a brand new thing, the reason I started is because of just that. The view that society and culture has changed when it comes to fatherhood about all kinds of things, about, it's less aspirational. Culture's not trying to inspire young men to get married and be fathers. What you're saying here is a whole nother thing. Like, you show up at a child's event and you're made to feel like, even if it's not directly, that why are you there? You should be out doing your job. You should be providing, when they know nothing about how you're able to be there or what's going on. Society has got to change, and we're the ones responsible for changing it. So I would say thank you for being there. Thank you for showing up. That's what I would tell you. And if I saw you there, I would say that 100%. Dakeen Photography, knowing that one day I won't be there to protect them and hoping I prepare them well enough for what they'll. Yep. That's a super common thread. User 512246 says getting up every day. Knowing you're only a father if the ex and judge says you can be. Yeah, that's the legal system, and the judicial system around co-parenting is problematic at its very best. It has to be addressed. That's one thing I'm going to work on in the future. No, thank you, Medic. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for the kind of father that you are. Mr. Biscuit says, selling all my time to a company that I could be spending with my boys. Yep. Wondering if you're doing it right. Jay Wallen, knowing your child listens to your advice but doesn't hear it until it happens to them. Isn't that the truth? You know what? All of these comments flowing in, the one about hours to a business instead of your boys. Yeah. You know what this tells me? It's funny because I have an AI startup company, and I do a lot of work with AI. And in fact, on December 1st, I'm doing a live stream that's going to teach how to build legacy and leverage this as a tool. If you want to read the description, the link to the tickets are in my bio. But the other side of it is, what brought that up? Shoot, I forgot why I was going to say that. It'll come back to me. There's a whole reason I was going to make that point. But I hope people, there's going to be incredible value in that. So I'm giving a plug for this upcoming December 1st event is really what I'm saying. But there was something else that's going to add to that. I almost died before my daughter was 2 because the factory almost, yeah. I mean, that's part of that element, right? That's part of that element of the sacrifices we make as fathers. I'm glad you're still here, brother. Glad you're still here. I can't read that name. I'll just tell you, anyway. It's the same thing. That's the best thing about being a father, watching them grow up. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. But as a father of 6 and empty nester, all the rewards. I got to watch my daughter get her first award at school this past summer, and she started crying because they wouldn't let her come sit with me. Terrible. What? You see what I'm saying? Schools and people can be so worried about certain structures and different kinds of things. But I mean, a father is there for a critical moment and that happens. Yeah. Gets my blood boiling. Gets my blood boiling. Like, who are you to stop my child from wanting to come over and share that moment with me? Yeah. Woof. Tederize, putting my emotions aside to hear, putting my emotions aside to see her smile, going without so she can have things I never had. She is and will always be the best part of me. I'm sitting here. I apologize. I'm responding to some comments because I know I've got hours and hours and hours of comments to respond to today. Let's keep going. Jose says, so again, these are comments on the post that I made with what's the hardest thing about being a father. And Jose Mata, to have to be the bad dad in my kid's story while loving them with all my heart, not being able to change that, thanks to their mom who made sure to tarnish my name. Oh, again, why? Why do either parent, and it seems like I'm gonna say this, I'm sorry for like being bold about this, but it seems like often it's the mothers who become very vindictive. It is the fathers sometimes, but women, I guess, emotionally lash out in divorces. And don't get me wrong, I understand there's hurt in divorce. I never have experienced that because I've been married 37 years, but I know far too many people, far too many men that are going through that. And oftentimes because the courts and the judicial system are so on side of the women that it tends to overlook a lot of the vitriol that comes from that. And I can tell you, I can tell you personal and close relationships I have of men that are experiencing that kind of a thing when they want to be the best dad they can, even though they don't want to be with the mom anymore. And the women just spewing vitriol and damage to hurt you. I wish I could say as much as respect and love and admiration as I have for moms and women, because obviously I have 2 daughters. I was raised by a single mom. I've been married 37 years. It is the top of my priority list of admiration and respect. But I don't have it when women turn all the greatness that makes women great into a weapon, into a vitriol, just to go out and hurt the person that that they may have been hurt by and sacrifice the children in the process. I have no tolerance for that whatsoever. I have no understanding. When you take on that role of mother or father, your role is to protect and nurture and grow and build those children to go through life in the best possible way. And, while you may not want to be, I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here. You may not want to be as a woman with the man that you fathered children with. I get it. But that doesn't take away your responsibility to be everything as a mother that you should be to those children, as well as let the father be everything a father's supposed to be. Yeah. Shorty Kid says, we have battles that others don't understand. Being an older father means I don't have time to teach him what struggles life put in front of you. I think I know what he's saying there. Sergeant Doogie, I have a daughter and she's my world, my best friend and cuddle buddy. I am her protection. One day I'll have to let her go and trust someone else to protect her. Yep. It's true. It's true. Shadow says, being left behind when you were a leader of the pack. I think I know what you're saying there, Shadow, but let me say this. I'll tell you this. All of our kids are grown and in lives of their own, building lives of their own. And I feel anything but left behind. I actually feel like I have an easier role now of being what they recognize as a mentor, as a rock in their world, that mom and I are here and will always be here for them. And it's an incredible experience, a blessing I didn't anticipate when I was a young father. But I hear what you're saying. Even though your daughters will marry, your sons will go on to build their own lives, you are still the pack leader. I promise. If you 15 years raise your daughters alone, you're even more so, brother. You're even more so their pack leader. Even when they marry and they go on and that man becomes the most important thing in their life, it'll never replace you. You will always, trust me. My daughter, who's married, having their sixth child, still calls me. I don't, and I'm not a father we're not parents that get immersed in our kids' lives. We respect their independence. We are always here for them. Latigo Smith, how are you doing? I just missed a comment. Sorry, over on Twitch. I'm great, my friend. Thank you. But you will absolutely, I am still that pack leader. I don't ever try to take any of that strength and responsibility and opportunity from my son-in-law, because he's a great guy and the perfect man for my daughter. But you will always be pack leader, especially when you raised those daughters by yourself for 15 years. That's hats off. Thank you for being that kind of father. What's the hardest thing about being a father? Fortune and Glory says trying your best and still coming up short. I get it. DJ, knowing that one day they won't need me and I'll be a footnote in their busy life. You'll always be way more than that. I'm going to respond. You will always be much more than that. But may not see it until later in life. Bronum's asking Shadow, how old were you when you got your first? Raising two daughters, 15 years by yourself. That's so admirable, inspirational. A simple call means the world to us. Yep. That's from Ray. John Rodriguez says, nothing. It's all worth it. It all comes with my story till the end of my kids, no matter what. Till the end for my kids, no matter what. I'm going to respond to this one as well. Thank you for, I don't think we say thank you enough for men being fathers. Thank you for being that kind of father. Simple words. Biden the Goats, wishing you could stop time or even go back sometimes. I have no desire to stop time or go back. Every minute of my kid's life, oh my goodness, I have no desire to go back or stop time. I get the sentiment of it, but because I feel like I give my best in every hour of my kid's life and the best I can do, not that that's even close to perfect, I feel like I'm ready for the next one. So many feeling like you failed from TikToker, AA Ron, always worrying, just a nobody, watching them grow up. These were all, what's the hardest thing about being a father? Not being able to protect them from everything emotionally and physically. We wish we could, but we can't. Marlon Plummer, giving all you can and still feeling like you failed by the mother. Yeah. Sorry, ladies, but you can bring a level of vitriol and anyway. Scott, not messing up anybody that looks their way must be learning sometimes. I'm not sure. I read that one before. I'm not sure what that one means. Burying your child, I'll never be the same. You will be never the same, but you will be stronger from it. I can tell you from experience in having lost a child myself. Never being around enough, feeling like a failure to them and not giving what they deserve. Michael King, I'm beginning, there's so much of a thread of that. I guess one of the biggest mantras and one of the biggest things I would say is to not feel that way. And the only way to not feel that way is to know that you are absolutely doing your best. if you're doing your best, you can't be expected to do any more. No one expects any more than your best. No one expects perfection, even if they say they do. It's unreal. You'll never get perfection. Just drop it. Give it up. Trust me, I'm someone that chases it pretty hard. I get it. But age and wisdom has taught me that you're never going to get it. You're going to work towards being as complete as you can, but that's it. That's it. What's up, user 317-417-410-6245? What's up, my friend? So another plug. I'm going to do, if you want to know how to build legacy, listen, let me just give this plug. Because I don't really like doing this, but so I have a paid event, a live stream on December 1st, a week from Monday night, which is Cyber Monday. And I did it because I know how many dads are feeling like, you're getting crushed with ads in your inbox and all kinds of Amazon notifications about Black Friday, and there'll be Cyber Monday. But a lot of that stuff will never build any legacy. Gifts are great. I love Christmas. We love getting gifts. We do less and less every year because we do other things. But I'm leveraging my AI experience in my AI startup to teach two things. One, how to build legacy using an incredibly powerful tool and do some amazing things. One of like creating music, like this song you're listening to in the background. My son and I created. Now we're going to produce album after album after album for all about fathers, and we're working on that project now. But I have 10 songs that are out now, and then to be able to do things personalized with your kids, I'm going to teach you how to do that exactly, to build legacy, stories and videos and books and pictures and music and all kinds of stuff. The second thing is helping your kids grow up in an AI world. I feel very strongly about that. I speak on AI at different events. I did a big one in Houston a few weeks ago. And I have a partner in this. And one of the things I told him yesterday on a call that we had, I said, listen, the number one thing we can do is cultural change, change behavior. And it's the same thing for parents. You're going to have to learn to change your behavior around what's happening with AI for good and bad. And there's both there. And I'm going to have this event and do that. So you can there's a link in the bio about the event. Hopefully people will take advantage of that. It's going to be, it'll be the best $49 you'll spend for the holidays. I promise. Okay. Enough for the shameless plug. Alex De La Garza, watching them grow and knowing one day the rooms they once, okay, I already read that one. We're coming up on 700 comments. I mean, it's just insanity. For me, when I dropped them off with their mom, it was never supposed to be this way. Nope. It was not ever supposed to be that way. You're absolutely right. Echo Soul says, getting mad at them for doing something you also did as a kid. Oh, that's a good one. That's a funny one. Yeah. Man, I'm going to just reply. Man, that's a true and hilarious fact of fatherhood. Peter says, I'm divorced for 5 years now, and the hardest is when my daughter leaves to her mom's and I'm home by myself. Yeah. Again, that's not a challenge I've ever had to face, but I 100% understand that it's a challenge that too many men face in co-parenting and divorce and all of that. In raising our 6 children, and being married, for 37 years, always being, I never had to face anything like that. But my heart breaks for it. I want to see something I'm streaming on 3 platforms, but using 2 services. I want to see something here really quick. There's something I can put up. Not live goal, guessing game viewer, gallery, game rewards, fan club, promote. What is fan club? Sorry, I'm taking a break here from reading comments for a second. I want to see. One thing I need to start doing too is multi-guest. Viewer wishes. Let me see what this is. I'm looking at some different interaction stuff. I should have done poll and gift vote. Quick poll. Get viewers 2 options for a quick. Allow viewers vote multiple times between 2 options by sending gifts. TikTok would love for me to do that, right? Let's do a poll. Let's do a poll. Okay, I started a poll. There's not many of us in here right now. I guess I'm supposed to ask a question. I thought you actually posted it in here. So here's the question. I didn't have a question ready. Shoot. Let me. What's the question? Is fatherhood worth it in the end? Sorry, I was messing around with some of this different stuff. Playbook. I shouldn't be doing this live. Gift gallery. Game rewards, partnership, promote, live events. Expand audience. What does that mean? Okay, let's get back to reading comments. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Cody Hawker, juggling being able to provide and be present. Yeah. It just makes being present even more critical. Thank you for being the kind of father that recognizes Here I stand, Father strong. Okay, Josh Hyde, stepping aside to allow son-in-law to be her protector. Whoo. That is tough. I'm going to respond to this one as well. That is tough. Did it once so far with our oldest of 2 daughters. That is a tough one. I haven't heard anyone comment that one before. Oh. What time is it? What I should do is grab a bite to eat, answer a bunch of comments, put out some content, and then get back on stream. So maybe I'll do that. Because I've been on for 4 hours. Wow, it's crazy. I've been on for 4 hours. So I'm going to end this live stream, take a couple of hours to eat, answer comments, and put out some content, and then I'll be back on tonight. So let's say, what time is it now? It's almost 2:30. Let's say I'll be back on by 6 at the latest, and we'll go for like another 4 hours tonight. So listen, thank you for all this engagement. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being great fathers and fathers that are striving through all the difficulties and challenges. And I know that it's tough to get lost in that struggle, but understand that it matters and that your legacy and your impact, not just for you, for your children, but for culture and society as well. And so I'm so proud to call myself a father, so privileged to be one, and excited to do everything in the future that we're going to do together. So if you haven't, be sure to follow, be sure to subscribe, be sure to comment, be sure to like, so you can stay in tune. I will be on again tonight. Let's call it, I'll be on 6 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Central, and then we'll just do a whole, there'll be a ton more comments, and we'll have a lot more to talk about. If you want to know about the upcoming event we have, I promise it'll be the best money you spend for Christmas. On Cyber Monday. It's an anti-Cyber Monday kind of a thing for building legacy and using technology to do it. I will share some things that will blow you away. The link for tickets is in my bio, so I would highly encourage you to take advantage of that. Take advantage of that for Cyber Monday, anti-Cyber Monday. All right, everyone, much love. Thank you. I will see you again tonight at 6 p.m.